Welcome, everyone. Thanks for joining us for episode 127 of Tattoo Collecting 101, right here on Guy Aitchison's Reinventing the Tattoo Network, a community for tattooers, apprentices, collectors, and all those curious about the world of tattooing, where they're encouraged to join these live stream and real world events. We aim to educate and inspire one another to create better art and tattoos. We aim to educate and inspire one another to create better art and tattoos. This place, the community, a better place than how we found it.
Oh man, sorry guys.
I got you. Okay. All right. We stream out most days of the week, so be sure to check out the full schedule of events going on, as well as our professional development courses from over 20 world-class tattoo artists at reinventingthetattoo.com. You can also find these shows on our Roku channel, as well as all your favorite podcast platforms. So just search for Reinventing the Tattoo and you'll find us there. Real quick, just want to say thank you to the sponsors who make everything possible. So thank you to World Tattoo Events, which has the largest, most comprehensive resource for tattoo events going on in the world right now. Thank you to Tattoo Now, technology for tattooers. They're the leading edge in professional development, management, and digital tools for tattooers of all levels. Also, just want to say thank you to the affiliates at the Fireside Tattoo Network and the Apprenticeship Diaries. And lastly, thank you to Guy Aitchison. He's the founder and inspiration behind the Reinventing the Tattoo community and is what makes it possible. So you can go to guyaitchison.com to get a copy of the Biomech Encyclopedia, instructional DVDs, original paintings, and custom coil machines. And lastly, if you're enjoying the knowledge we're putting out, be sure to share it and watch another video with a friend. All right.
Kyle, that was actually a pretty good job, except my computer was not silenced. The laptop from us here.
It's always one thing or the other.
It's always something.
It's all right though. That's what makes a live show so much fun.
Ben, what day is it today?
420.
What? Look, I wore my appropriate clothing to celebrate.
420
Mhm.
clothes.
Yes.
I was stating earlier that I have never owned or worn marijuana paraphernalia. Not ever one time.
Not ever one time.
Not ever one time.
If I'm gonna like openly support anything, it's that.
Well, I mean, it falls into the category of don't make trouble. You know, like
I got a
Yep.
single shirt that I usually only wear at home.
way to support silently, Kyle. Proud of you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I've never needed extra attention or trouble, or pretty good at creating that all on my own.
There we go. I got everything up. I felt like we were doing so good on time, and then what had happened was it's 4:20,
And then we got,
and then we realized
started
Kyle was the only one being productive.
and I was like, Kyle.
So today we have an awesome guest joining us. We could kind of jump into that. I've been seeing a lot of cool posts and content from the Inked Shrink. He's got a phenomenal bodysuit, and I think a lot of the things that he's talking about are right up our alley. I think he just does it in a little bit more of a grown-up way than we do, which is totally cool.
What are you saying?
Well, I mean,
Or
we do
childlike
smoke a lot of weed
enthusiasm.
on our show. We do have childlike enthusiasm,
What's that?
but we get into like down some of the rabbit holes we jump. We talk about like the personal growth that has happened through our tattoos.
Mhm.
So I'm kind of excited to talk to him and just kind of like see where the conversation goes. I think his content is right in the same lane as ours. So I'm pretty excited. And
All right.
it was just as you know how you'll see somebody online and you'll like their stuff and it's like, man, it'd be cool to reach out to that person somehow and like
Oh wait, the system is designed for
that's what
that.
this is. Yeah, so it was like random. It probably wasn't even an appropriate hour to do like a contact. I was just probably like 2 a.m. Hey, want to join us for our little show?
What's up? What you do? I noticed you. I didn't know if you noticed me
I
noticing you, but
I noticed your tatties. I noticed you're talking.
I noticed your
and I
mental
thought-
health, sir. I was instantly like, no. something like that late night DM to spark a conversation. Well, it's the same. We've talked about that before. So many people get like shy about sending a artist that's a little bit out of reach a message and things like that because they're worried about them either not reading it or getting stuck in some sort of gatekeeper situation where somebody else is answering their messages. But it's like, you know what? Sometimes you message Arnold Schwarzenegger on Instagram and he actually answers you. Does that happen?
Yeah, it's a funny.
Not to me, but I'm sure it happens.
It's funny. Like, it is there's a lot of talk about social media right now, and like with all the
Yes.
TikTok controversy and
Wait,
this,
what?
that, and the third.
What's the TikTok controversy?
Oh, just that it's like, gathering all of our information and influencing people to be like, depressed.
Well, isn't that the same
All
thing
the
that they said
things.
about
But
the
what-
Book of Faces and the Gram of Instas?
But what I was gonna say is it's cool that with all these things being said about these platforms, it's cool that we can just simply reach out to one another and still actually use them as a point of connectivity to
That-
other people we actually want to connect with.
Holy fuck! At the base, it was called social media, and we got into this realm where we turned it into profile lifestyle media as opposed to like, "What up, homie? I'm glad I found your face on here. I haven't seen you in 20 years. Let's kick it in real life."
I forgot until earlier today that there are actually like communities that take their drama to Facebook. Like that's how they sort things out. Like I forgot that was a thing that happened.
Do
I
you
thought
wanna just
Facebook outgrew
have a-
that, but now I remember.
We can pull up my local community Facebook page.
So it's
It's a riot. It's fucking.
man. I'm glad I bet there is one for my community. I just don't think I'm part of it. Is this just too close?
I think it's.
Am I
just-
getting feedback?
I think the
too
mic
much
is
feedback?
just.
Is it just too sensitive?
You know, what I mean?
The hot mic?
It's just a hot mic.
Hmm,
You got the high end turned up on this at all, Kyle?
it's not really like that. You just got like volume. It's just designed
There's
for,
no gain. There's
Oh.
no.
hmm. It is awful, click and poppy. Is yours
Yeah.
that sensitive?
No.
Hmm,
Um,
should I swap it out with another one? Should I just grab the handheld?
I mean, just rock it, girl. You doing fine?
Well, I don't want the,
It
I
is
don't-
very
I don't want to have an AS, what is it?
Got me.
ASMR episode.
Messy, messy. So as I dangle her microphone and check out and make sure everything is clicky and connected, what does 420 mean to you, Fawn?
Hmm.
Oh, you can't hear her. I got you all. You know, the tech demons being part of the show has
Test.
Has
test,
made us
test, test,
pretty-
test. There we go.
on the fly.
Yeah, there we go. I think we're good.
That was
That's
like
better. It gives me
seen-
something to fidget with too.
major productions take longer than that to change a microphone.
I
Your
think we
stand
could.
is right there.
I think we could double as roadies. Like we could
What do you
jump
mean
in.
double?
kinda what we
Like
do.
neither of us have been roadies. Oh wait, both of us have. Oh, that's right.
I know the appropriate way to carry a keyboard. Thank you very
What is
much.
it? Like a little baby,
One
one hand
arm
over the
over
shoulder.
Yeah. You just
Keys
gotta, like-
facing up.
Oh, it was in a case when I was carrying
She
it.
said it was in a
Yeah,
case.
it was.
It's
It was actually in like a heavier. Road case it was in was probably heavier than the keyboard. but,
right.
You know, they're not cheap.
What's that, gangster?
We got Keith Miller creeping up on us here in the warehouse.
Creeping. Creeping. Yeah, I couldn't tell you the amount of bands that I've carried their stuff for.
I
I'll be here.
definitely more than a handful for me, but there was a period of time where like I was homies with a lot of bands, and you know how sometimes if you're homies with like 3 or 4 guys, those 3 or 4 guys will end up being in like 6 or 8 different or 13 projects.
Oh, that was the thing about especially Columbus. The local music scene was like, oh, you're the guitarist from What's It What's. Oh, you're also the drummer from What's It What's, and you know the guys from What's It What's. And every time you guys all get together, you play that What's It What's fest. That's right.
Mhm.
And you end up playing 4 sets in a row.
It's funny how the tattoo scene has almost gotten like that. It's like,
It
oh, you know,
is.
so and so from such and such. They work with such and
Yep.
such. And then
It's
we
Kevin
get
Bacon,
to
man.
yeah, then we get to big conventions and we have that huge family reunion kind of feel going on.
It is kind of odd. It is kind of odd.
Knowing what we do about equipment, is that what you mean? It's
Right.
odd.
Well, just how one thing leads to the next.
Oh, the interconnectivity. I
Yeah.
thought you were talking about the on the fly electronic problem solving.
No,
but-
I mean, that's not odd. That's just trial and error. And oh, fuck, it's fucking up again.
Well-
that's just having tech demons as a random.
tech
or a
demons,
regular
but
guess.
Fortunately, we've got like the ultimate Swiss Army knife of pile of equipment to fight them with. So
What, Kyle?
yeah,
Did you just call
Kyle.
Kyle a Swiss Army knife?
No, well, Kyle would be the ninja utilizing the Swiss Army knife.
Ninja.
Yeah, I mean,
Okay,
he's
like I like
pretty
Kyle, but
savvy. Like
Ninja's
I
stretching it.
think I messed up a few things today.
What's-
I had our sound looping through 2 different devices, and then I had the jacked up microphone, clicks and popped everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
The
Mhm.
tech demons
you're
are
s-
just
you're
jumping
still
on my
going
shoulders.
ninja.
Is the problem.
Because a ninja you wouldn't have seen, heard, or known about, and the microphone would have been,
Back to music. you
not
know,
even.
They say do it twice, call it jazz.
Yeah. Do it twice. Call it
Yeah, if you make a
jazz.
mistake, just do it twice, call it jazz.
Yep.
You like that?
Yep. Fill it in.
Happy little tree, in the words of Bob Ross. That'd be like the artistic equivalent. Like, oh man, I didn't mean to make that mark. Well, I
Well.
guess there's gonna be a sapling there now.
Guess we're running it. Doing that now.
Oh, this is gonna be an autumn scene.
Oops.
The painting tells you what it wants to be.
Yeah. Bob Ross was bold like that, though.
Man,
We were talking about it the other week, how he was just like, and now is when you test your courage. We're just gonna put a big brown mark.
he'd
This is
pull
dark
out
chocolate brown.
he'd pull out the biggest
All
brush you'd
over
ever
the
seen in your
house.
life. Then before you know it, he's like speckling in moss, dashing in little birch bark textures.
See what you've done. So you just added this whole nother little world that makes the other little world just that much more special.
It's so funny because that was the thing that always caught my attention because it just like blow my mind.
Boom.
The world within a world.
So there's a B Ross doc on Netflix, Hulu, one of the streamers. And it's interesting as shit. Did you know there was like a bunch of TV painters at the same era, and like there was a husband and wife that like did flowers, and Bob was like, if you want to paint flowers, go to them. Like,
The most charismatic.
oh,
He
for
was the
sure.
one that was like flirting with his paintbrushes and
He did
flirting
that
with
on
the
purpose too.
audience.
He even admitted, he was like, I talked all silky and smooth to be appealing.
Ladies, man.
And there was a big controversy about, well, I don't want to give it away.
Well, I'm just gonna have to watch it.
Bum, bum,
I
bum.
wish, since we just jumped down this Bob Ross rabbit hole for a second time, we should have brought the standee in here. Him over my shoulder.
Those of
maybe-
you that have never been to Red Tree, we have a cutout of Bob Ross, works the back counter.
I think that was gifted to Brandon by one of his
That
clients.
sounds
He's
right.
got the squirrel on his shoulder.
Yep.
Do you know how many times like I know that thing is here? I know it's here and it occasionally moves to a new location. So maybe that's why it startles me sometimes, but sometimes I'll just come
Gotcha.
around the corner and it's like, oh, man with afro and jeans. What is up?
What up, Bob? My heart is in my stomach.
Yeah, it's gotten me a couple of times for sure.
Mhm, 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 mhm. Oh, goodness.
So, over the last like couple of years, I've been complaining about all the Invisalign stuff and dental stuff
Yeah.
and teeth and all of that.
Yeah.
So I'm finally done with that. So I feel like I'm gonna go ahead and start getting tattooed again soon. I haven't actually gotten around to like making the reach out and schedule, but like in the very near future, we'll probably get through like Hell City in the second half of convention season, and then I think maybe this fall or winter. You ready to snail me?
Got you. Touch you up.
I'll let you snail me. I don't know where you're gonna put it, but I'll let you
No.
snail me.
No, that's really awesome, man. That's well, congratulations on the long ass process of getting your fucking teeth.
So I
fixed.
told my poor dentist, the
First of all, your dentist is not poor. Let's back that train of thought all the way up one side. We charged you to be there.
Yeah, that's fair. They multiple dentists, but Nadia is the like dental tech that has been like working with me all along the way. And the last time I went in and I was like, before we got to like our little office area, I was like, I'm sorry, I'm probably like the least like, oh, what's the word I'm looking for? Enthusiastic. That's the word.
Mhm.
I'm probably the least enthusiastic patient you see. She's like, well, it's been a long journey and like, and you
Yeah.
say it didn't even bother you that much to begin with. So she's like, I get it, but we're almost there. I was like, you guys have been great the whole way. Like, I hope that I'm not discouraging for you guys. And she was like, no, not at all. I was like, but
You sound like me apologizing to customer service for being frustrated. Like, I'm gonna pre-apologize because like,
I
I
have to do that
know
sometimes. If
I'm
I-
worked up.
if
No,
I-
I do it.
to call customer service, first of all, I've already exhausted all the other options. Like I'm a pretty good problem solver. So usually by the time I call customer service, they're telling me to try the things I've already tried multiple times. Is it plugged in all the way? Is it plugged in? Yep.
Did you
Is it plugged in all the way? Yep. Did you press the power button? Yep. Did you hold it in? Yep. Yep. I held it in. I pressed it 3 times. I pressed it 5 times. I've done all the things.
Look,
I
buddy.
restarted it. I flipped my breaker. Tried it in a whole new outlet. Tried it in another building.
I am no longer even at my home. Trying to fix this problem.
I've explored every avenue I can explore. Please help.
I often pre-apologize because my when I don't understand something and I think something is wrong, my immediate reaction is, well, no. And like it's a hard path for me. I don't know why, but like I get very like, well, that's
It's been a while since I've been in like a retail situation where I had to deal with that kind of customer service kind
Right.
of thing. But I don't know. I feel like just remembering you're talking to like just a person, not the person that's responsible for the problem.
and that's why I started that. I know
It's
this
like, I
had
know this is not
absolutely
your
nothing to
fault.
do with you, but you have to forgive me because I am frustrated because of this situation. I'm really looking forward to you to being able to help me, and thank you for understanding. But I'm fucking pissed. Like this is bullshit. And I try to stay as PC as possible most of the time on the phone. I've got a pretty good, customer service voice, but they've been testing me, Fawn.
My cellular phone carrier, I have a hard time with them. Why is their business page so hard to navigate?
Right.
Like you're one of the biggest telecom companies in the entire world. You're telling me you don't have somebody to design you a better business page that people that
It's
pay
not-
for your services
it's
can
not supposed to
navigate so
be
they can
easy.
easily pay their bill?
It's not supposed to be easy. They want you to go on and get frustrated and confused and not do it. Oh, I'll just do it another way. And then
I
you
have left
forget.
some very strongly worded messages.
Let's put it this
Because you know
way.
how like once you're stuck for so long, you get the little chat box that pops
Yep.
up. Yeah, I
I'm ready to murder.
went off on that robot a few times and
Yeah.
I'm,
Yep.
you know how, I believe in being polite to electronics. If you tell Siri, thank you, she'll say, why, thanks. It's nice to be appreciated.
Yeah.
If it didn't make a difference, why would she say that?
Right. I agree. I say thank you and please to my robot every time. Because when I'm in a pinch, I want her to pull through. I don't want her to be like, you get one option, fuck boy. You get that. That's it. You hate me and talk shit. Why am I trying to help you? So I'm extra nice to my robot.
Yep. I think it's going to be worthwhile one day just
I
to be
agree.
polite to things.
I agree.
We're jumping down rabbit holes.
Yeah. So I was on customer service call the other day with
Oh,
my
no.
with my cell phone carrier for an hour and a half. Mhm. Hour
Why?
and a half. 3 different departments.
Why? You've
Uh,
had the same 2 lines for like 74 years.
And they jumped my bill. I started randomly charging an extra credit card. It's not my regular payment method, like my
Mm.
bank account. So they started charging another random card that they just happened to have on file somewhere. The overages, which there shouldn't have been overages.
Mhm.
I've been paying the same thing since '92.
Found out I've been paying for services I wasn't even able to use. I've had a watch, and they told me that I paid for like standalone service for it, like a dedicated line. And I'm like,
And your watch isn't even capable of that, because some are.
it is, it absolutely is. But when they set it up, they set it up as a Bluetooth device. And when I purchased it, I specifically said, no, I don't want it to be standalone. I don't want the extra money on my bill. Keep my bill the same.
It's funny how they get you.
So now I was like, no, turn that shit on. Like, make it fucking work. If I've been paying for it for 9 months, regardless, I felt real bad for that person. And she was so nice and so sweet. And I just kept saying, like, look, I know I'm like being extra, but it was a whole lot of
the most stressful job to have. I hope that people that have that job are just really good at compartmentalizing and remembering that these problems are not their own.
It's like being a server. Can I just be real? Okay, so a server's job is to deal with people that are hangry.
Mm,
Okay.
yeah.
No
Usually, yeah.
one's happy when they go into a restaurant. No one's like, la-di-da, it was such a great time waiting for this table. I am so enthused to wait some more and wait for the drink because I'm starving. No one's like that. Every single human being on the motherfucking earth is like, God damn it, I'm hungry. Get the fuck out of my way.
Yeah.
In whatever vernacular they choose to use. So that to me was the magic of working in a restaurant. Your job was to change someone's mood. And a lot of people didn't understand that about a dining experience. The front desk person, do you know why they're supposed to be so soft and so gentle, but yet direct and give specific information? There's a whole fucking science behind that, because the people that come in the front door are fucking hangry.
Calm down. You've
Hey,
come to the right place.
I want you to know that you are in good hands. I'm about to take great.
You are going to
care.
have the best appetizers and dippy dips this side of the Mississippi.
Let me make sure everything's okay. We'll get you seated right away. That type of personality is always at the front door.
I'm not gonna lie. One of the things that I always thought that I would enjoy working in food if it was like the right kind of food or the right kind of establishment, just because I'm so passionate about food. So if it was the right kind of foodies coming in, being like, "Hey, what's good?" and I could be like, "Oh, so first of all,"
See, but that's the thing. You don't get that experience and you don't get to have that interaction until after you've earned their trust. So you, at a new restaurant, especially sampling menus and things like that, there's no faith and people are on guard. It's just like, okay, hunter and gatherer. You know why things smell better when you're hungry?
oh, it's kind of like when
Right?
somebody has one of my favorite dishes and it's like, I don't even know if I want to order it because if it doesn't, if
You
it's
fuck
not
it up.
right, it's
Mhm.
gonna break my
Mhm.
heart. Like
Yep.
old fashioned cream pie is one of them for me. I don't know if you know about this, but
Yeah.
old fashioned cream pie, it's like a custard. It should have that skin on top where it's just caramelized and delicious. And then
Break it a
the
little bit.
crust should be not soggy, but nice and like crispy and almost like
the
a
custard should have been
pastry.
half formed.
yeah, like a nice pastry. So it's a firm but chewy crust
Mhm.
and then like crispy
Kyle,
and
order this food.
delectable outside. Anyways, so if I order old fashioned cream pie and it doesn't pull that trigger exactly right, I'm just like,
That's me and Rubens.
my inner child's not happy.
That's me and Rubens.
That's fair.
Okay.
Also,
This
Benny's for you.
motherfucking. Oh yeah. Okay.
You're
I
picky about your
know I'm
Bennies.
picky about my Benny though. A Reuben is 4 motherfucking ingredients. Hollandaise is an emulsion butter sauce. Like, it's not easy. I get it. But a Reuben is fucking rye bread, Thousand Island dressing, sauerkraut, and
Meat.
fucking meat,
You're
man.
right.
Like, that's it. If you can't fucking put 4 ingredients on a sandwich and not serve me shit, I'm getting worked up thinking about a crappy Reuben. If that tells you anything.
Poor Ben. Who hurt you?
A soggy sandwich is who hurt me. But that's why I got out of food, because they took the soul out of it, man. They really, really did. They sucked the soul out of it. It all became about price point and production and what we can serve at this dollar. And that took the fun out of it for me. Took the fun out of it. But like when you had someone come in and you could tell they were like not in a good mood, had the long day, you're able to get them in, get them sat, get food to them, good food, good service, and they're smiling by the time it's over. They don't know why they're so happy. No one full is pissed off.
Ben, while we're on this subject, so this makes me think of like times that I walk into a restaurant by myself.
Yep. Yep.
Some of the weirdest interactions, like sometimes they try so hard to start conversations.
The
Not that
solo
I have-
diner syndrome, bro. They want to be your best friend.
I don't have my dreadlocks anymore, but when I had my dreads and my tattoos were showing on my head, and like God forbid I wear a pair of shorts, like some weird people start weird conversations with me. But when you're a lonely diner, sometimes you're right, they do go over an extra, and sometimes I like being called honey and sweetie and
For sure.
baby, and if you
For
want
sure.
to act like you're my aunt or grandmother,
Well, hug when
Yes.
it's over.
yes, and I
I-
will take the dessert that you insist that I try that I
Yep.
know I didn't leave
Yep.
room for.
Yep. I had a server. I was traveling for business and I was in Memphis and went to a restaurant. It was a high-end restaurant. And the server like shook my hand and gave me a hug after our meal. It was very like we were bros by the time it was over. I don't know if he thought I was sad or what the gig was, but by the time like the meal was over, he was like, I just really hope everything goes okay for you, man. And like shook my hand and then did like the pull in and it gave me like the shoulder pat. It wasn't like full on hug, don't get me wrong.
Oh, you
but
made a
like,
friend.
but we didn't like talk. There wasn't like I was just traveling alone. I may have been really stoned from riding the bird scooter down to the restaurant, fucking smoking a blunt on the way there. And he just thought I was a sad person. I mean, or whatever. But like by the time it was over, he bought my dessert and we like embraced.
Aw.
It's a weird solo diner thing. When I eat out with Lily, you know how many people I've had pick up our check?
It's just because she's like exceptionally adorable and like a tiny adult.
It gets that sad lonely dad vibe though.
But you're like, nah, we're just food nerds and we really like Waffle House.
We're cool, guy. I can afford the $15 Waffle House. I appreciate you. Like, don't get me wrong, but it turns into the like, oh, look at the solo dad trying to do the best, and look how good of a relationship we're gonna bless them with picking up their check. And it's like, it's happened 6 or 7. Just like Lily's a fucking money magnet. I've had 5 or 6 times people just come up and hand her money.
Like a one or
Here's
two
a
or
dollar.
five.
Here's 50 cents. I got a quarter for you, sweetie. Here you go. There's a lady that we run into at Waffle House. She's normally coming in as we're leaving almost every Sunday. And she specifically brings my kid candy. I'm
I
still
mean-
eating the last thing of Godiva chocolate she gave me.
She's got her own fan club.
It's weird.
I
It's
mean,
weird.
yeah.
I'm not that inviting. Like, I'm not a dick, but like, I'm not like waving people down to talk to
Ben, I think you look more happy-go-lucky than you give yourself credit for.
them.
Just
I'm
so
not
you
saying
know.
I don't like.
Like you're not as like much of a curmudgeon as you would like to paint yourself to be. Like you're usually very pleasant. You hold the door for people. We preach about manners on our show. Like if you're going to be tattooed, you gotta have good manners.
But
Don't
it's-
make us look bad.
And I agree with all those words, but I'm
Yeah,
not
we're
like,
not a curmudgeon.
hey, bro, what's going on? How's your day? How's your breakfast? Like, that's not, but yet somehow I'm always in that conversation. I'm there just to eat. And it's not just Waffle House. Like, I've had people at like somebody at Hickory House picked up our bill. Somebody at fucking Applebee's picked up our bill. We had the manager buy our food one night. Like, do I look that sad? Or is
No.
it just like the cute factor?
It could
'cause,
be
like,
the cute factor.
She's cute. Like, I get
It could be the cute
She's a pretty
factor.
awesome kid.
Sometimes I don't know. Sometimes when people see like something sweet, or when people see like a random act of kindness, they have this urge to reciprocate. And like,
I-
I'm not gonna lie, the way you and your kid like interact with one another is pretty stinking cute. Like
Well,
I could see
manager that-
watching you guys, just because you guys have a great, it's very quirky the way you communicate with one another too, because you're very matter of fact with her and she's very matter of fact back. Like,
Yeah.
oh, okay. Well, I thought it was like this.
Nah, fam. We keep it. I don't believe in cushions because it makes gray area, especially when you're younger. It's. I'm not saying she doesn't have choices, but when it's time to make a choice, you give her options. When it's not time to make a choice, you don't. So it's like when it's a matter of fact, it means that you don't have room for discussion.
Mhm.
So when I leave it an open ended, I want communication. It's
Yeah.
different. So like from very early, it's been a construct of conversation to make her understand when it's acceptable to talk back, for lack of a better term. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
Because sometimes I want her opinion. I want to engage in what she wants, and I don't want to tell her what to do.
Mhm.
Tell me the order of the things we're going to do today. That'd be a blast.
I learned at a very early age, like to differentiate between back talking when I would ask why,
Mhm.
and like when I would be like, okay, don't get mad, but I really want to know why.
Well, the
Like
key
I'd have
is
to like
accepting you have to do it first.
dramatically change my tone,
So when she's
or
like,
like,
okay, I understand we can't go to the park and we have to go to the grocery store. That's fine. That's what we're doing. But why can't we? Or whatever the
and
circumstance
then if
is.
the answer is we don't have time, she'd be like, oh,
Oh,
okay.
cool. Or whatever. We have to make a stop
I-
here. Or
On that, I think that's like an important thing to do with little kids. Is like when they do ask a simple question, it's not always necessarily like out of defiance or disrespect. Sometimes
curiosity.
it's literally like, okay, but why?
well, do you remember like not knowing everything?
I feel like I'm incredibly in touch with my inner child. Like,
So like I couldn't imagine at that information gathering stage and that developing mind, because like she's just starting school, she's just being inquisitive and learning all those things. So it's like to continue that development of seeking knowledge, I don't want to be like and shit on her train of thought. If
Mhm.
you need me to fill in the gaps and I'm capable of doing that, like I'd rather do that than have you go read it out of a book, or maybe not. Probably be correct if she went and read it out of a book, but you get my drift.
Mhm.
I'd rather you be wanting to ask the questions and keeping that line of communication open. And if I don't know, let's figure it out. I'd rather you come to me with the problem because that gets different later.
Yeah.
When they're older, when they've been coming to you to solve how to tie their shoe their whole life, and there's no, oh my God, you need me to tie your shoe again? And now there's a stress added to that and a shame because now they feel that you're upset. And there's a oh, I don't want to ask them to tie my shoe. That's bad. So when you associate that to now I'm running late and I don't want to make that phone call, so I'm going to just show up late and get yelled at, as opposed to I could have saved it by making a phone call and saying, hey, I'm running late.
Mhm.
Or when they are in trouble and they have been drinking at the party and that's too young and
You know what's
they-
funny? We talk about problem solving and accountability. But like, how many people make it all the way through life without either of those two, let's call them skills? They can't solve their own problems, nor can they be
Lots.
held accountable for the
Lots.
shenanigans they cause.
And it's like if you teach that, like, okay, I'm over my head, it's time to reach out. I'd rather deal with the problem and then have a discussion later when everything's calmed down than jump down their throat.
Hmm.
Like, hey, it's really frustrating to me that you know how to tie your shoe and you still come to me every single time to do it. I know you think it's just fun and we're having a good time, but sometimes I don't have the time to stop what I'm doing to tie your shoe for you. And if I ask you to do it, I just need you to take care of it for me, please. Okay. And now there's no hate about the conversation because you've done it and moved on.
Uh-huh.
Apply that
To
on out,
everything.
and
Yeah.
it makes it, I'm hoping in the future to where she's not afraid to ask me anything.
And I think you guys reason and logic pretty well. So
We'll get there.
she's
I saw
little.
flashy flashes.
Who's flashing?
I don't know. I just saw things. Squirrel. But it's just weird because like I don't know. I feel like that wasn't that was the one thing I always felt like it was hard to do young, was get questions answered. So I never wanted to make it like, oh my God, you're bothering me to help you. It's like it's kind of my only real job in the world is to make sure my kid knows how to be a person.
Knows how to life.
Yeah, like
Let me teach you how to
let me
life.
just connect some dots so I can be lazy, like, yes, this is how you make a sandwich. Here you go. Here's the tools to do the job. Is it all selfish in the end? Probably.
So you're just raising your future caretaker. Is that what you're telling me?
Duh. Like,
That sounds incredibly healthy.
duh. I mean, I think if more people thought of it as their kid being their retirement plan, regardless if that's a financial thing or just even a mental disposition, because like I don't need her to pay for shit. But like when I'm old and like both my knees are broken, my hip doesn't work, and I can't make it down the steps, and I need somebody to come, I want somebody that's going to have that same compassion and not yell at me and be upset with me and have the same patience with me that I had with them.
Yeah.
So like, if you don't show them another way, they don't know another way.
Mhm.
It's all selfish. I want a good retirement home, you know. Daddy wants one with a pool, you know. Don't go cheap. Wheelchair lift that gets me in that water. I want to play wheelchair polo.
Wheelchair pole. What pole you want?
Yeah, I'm just saying. I expect her to do good things in life.
I don't know. I feel like if you treat, well, if you treat a child with kindness, you know, they learn kindness. But if you just treat people in general with kindness, if you just, I don't know, if you just act with kindness, a lot of times it will influence the right decisions. You know what I mean?
One of these days.
It's like it
I'll
can't
keep
be
paying,
that
I'll
simple. It
keep
can't
paying
be
into
that
the
simple.
system fund. I'll keep paying
That's
into
fair,
the
that's
system.
fair.
Maybe, you know, you just got to hit a certain limit, you know.
I don't know.
That was a good little bleezy. I was kind of proud of it.
It's been going for a little while. So you got anything going on in the tattoo world? You've been working on any snails?
I've been home snailing it.
You've been snailing it?
I've been home snailing it a little bit. Not too crazy. I think I've done 2 more.
If any of you are listening,
Little
who've never
snails.
listened before, we've kind of got this running shtick. Ben's going to be a professional snail tattooer.
It started as a joke.
Not
And
he's
now we're
going to
like
tattoo
doing it.
snails. He's going to tattoo snails on people.
I think maybe I'll just get really good at fake skin and sell them. Like snail art.
Okay.
I'm not saying
Okay.
I'm not going to tattoo people. I'm just saying I'm also thinking I'm going to
I just had this vision of like setting up my Dremel tool and teaching you how to etch into marble. So you know that Mary from the Pietà that I've got in the
Uh-huh.
lobby on the black
Uh-huh.
marble.
I used to use the Dremel and like draw on wood all the time. I love
It's
them.
just dots, little stibbles with a diamond tip of my Dremel. And the cool thing is like when you take the time to etch into stone by hand rather than laser, it'll last hundreds of years. The laser etchings don't go as deep. They don't, you know, a lot of times they're rubbing tint into it to make it actually look more detailed. So those could teach you that.
Can
Can we
we?
teach you how to etch headstones? I hear it's incredibly lucrative. Not a lot of people know how to do
actually-
that kind of craft.
Heard that is extremely lucrative. That would be very, very interesting.
Headstone etching.
But I just started one hobby. You
They
know,
go hand in hand. They're just dots.
I like
It's just dots, Ben.
Fine,
It's just
fine.
dots.
how
close
long?
together
How
on
long
fire.
have we been talking about snails
It's
before
just
snails came together?
dots. But look, you're doing it.
I hear you. So let's start talking about marble now. And like
Baby
6
steps
years
out of
from
the
now,
hallway.
we'll start bagging
Baby
marbles.
steps onto the elevator.
Why
Oh, Kyle said he's never seen that movie before.
does that not surprise me? We're going to the cabin by the lake and we're going to watch it. That's part of the movie. If you'd seen it, you would understand.
What about Bob is what we're talking about to you millennials that didn't grow up in the same time era
Have you
Yes,
seen
me and
Freddie
Ben.
Got Fingered?
with Tom Green.
No, I have
Daddy, would
not.
you like some
Have you seen
sausages?
Road Trip?
No.
Oh, I just watched that the other day while I was working.
Impossible dream.
Oh man,
Like Kyle.
we need to school this kid. He's come a long way though, really.
Has he
We need to-
really?
We need to have another
Has he-
couple movie nights.
Has he really?
Hey,
You
I've
have
been
to
telling
watch
you, I'm
one
down for the
movie.
movie night.
One movie.
You
He's,
just have to invite
he's
me.
down. He's down for the movie night, he says. And look at that face.
Oh, like I don't watch movies.
Just
so
invite me, bro.
here's the gig. I have my child every Saturday and Sunday. She goes to bed at 8 o'clock. We can start a movie Saturday or Sunday any week at 8:15-ish. I don't rule your world. My world's very simple. Pick your day, and I will make you watch some cheesy 90s movie. Have you seen Waiting
With Ryan Reynolds.
and Dane Cook?
Mm-hmm.
Christ. I just don't even.
What are we gonna do with this kid? We need to
You
school
don't-
him. So did you
He
see?
doesn't know about
So
the
listen
game.
to this. So apparently they showed a bunch of these young kids.
Oh, you little
They showed, they showed these whippersnappers a little bit of the American Pie footage. And
Oh,
they got like
Jesus.
the article I read was like this generation's take on American Pie. And they're like some of the comments that I read were, I find it very inappropriate that they didn't even acknowledge the exchange student as a character. She had that her character had no value. It was like all of these like,
That's because American Pie was edgy,
well,
and
and
that vernacular had
the
just been.
question at the end of the article, is there that much of a gap in like the generational, like how we like basically how we like rate our humor, or what we find humorous versus what we find repulsive, like
Well, I think it has a lot to do with that wasn't socially acceptable when we were kids, and it's been commonplace since then.
you know, that's the thing that I thought is it was can millennials just not take sarcasm?
It's not that they can't take sarcasm.
Because it was a comedy to begin with, and as a comedy it's a note on things that are inappropriate,
but
you know.
The things that they were doing in American Pie weren't commonplace at the time. That's why we all thought it was funny. That's why we all thought it was hilarious. But now they are the built upon.
I
worn
do
out
know a
jokes,
lot of people under 25 that don't grasp sarcasm.
right?
Do you
That's
think
funny.
that's a dying art?
No.
Do you think like when we can say something like deadpan
Yes.
to one another and like it could sound hateful, but because we're making eye contact, we both know the other is joking, but everybody around us is like,
Yeah, that's true.
where the like they just literally don't pick up the sarcasm. What are your thoughts, Kyle, as the baby in the room?
I think a lot of people don't necessarily pick up on sarcasm anymore.
Man, I
Yeah.
grew up in a household that was flooded with sarcasm.
Built upon.
Like if you were not thick skinned and couldn't take a whole bunch of sarcasm, you did not have a good time. You've met my mother.
I remember the first time meeting your mom. And she hit me with something. I honestly don't even remember what it was.
But you were probably just like, oh, okay, we're going right there.
Oh, I just went right back at it. I don't remember.
That's
what
the
I said.
appropriate
I
way
just-
to handle it.
boom.
That's how she gauges people. She just
Yeah.
goes like right in.
Are we going to
Just
be cool, or is this going to be a problem? Because this is who I am.
bingo?
I love it about her. I hugged her before I left.
But there's almost a love language in the sarcasm in our family. Like there's all these inside jokes where
Yep.
like, for instance, grammar Nazis, but there are certain like movie lines and stuff where we're like, hey, Dern, which is like, we would never really talk
Right,
like that.
right.
But in the setting, we all know that it's a joke.
Right.
Like we know better than to like smash our syllables together and condense words and phrases. Like we know better. Like I can write like traditional cursive. The
I
classic.
can write.
I mean,
traditional cursive.
don't make me
Classic
calligraphy
calligraphy,
here.
if you will.
So like I know better than to say ain't. So usually if ain't is in any sentence around any member of my family, you have to know the context of the story is going somewhere off kilter.
It's
Like
meant
that's an
on
indicator.
purpose.
Yeah, that is an like if there is bad grammar in the story, just hold on. It's the whole story could turn
We're about
into
to start
something
talking
crazy.
about Crystal Methodists. It's gonna get great. Praying to the Lord of the Rock. No, we do that a lot as well. It helps with building that. This is us. Just like we say the same phrases often and talk over each other's sentences, and that's like lines up a lot.
Oh, you and
And
I
that's-
are a little different though. We like break into songs simultaneously so many
I'm
times.
not saying it
that,
wasn't
like,
a little weird. I'm just like, but that's how we're like, haha, we're close because we think along the same lines.
Mhm.
In a family, that's the same dynamic. That's we all saw the movie that
we
that
all
line
watched
came
it
from.
9,000
We all
times
laughed
together.
at that one part. Yes, we've all seen Beauty and the Beast 4,000 times, and the part that we think is funny is the part when the kitchen door slams. You know what I mean? Like for some arbitrary reason, or and that's nobody else would get that joke or that one little weird line that it's because of closeness. Makes it fun. Aw.
we were so Medusa was here last weekend and Lauren was down for a visit for some photo shoots. And we were all like, for background noise, watching this show called The Guest Book. And we somehow made it all the way to season 2.
Oh,
And there's
jeez.
this episode where I can't give any of it away, but you got to watch this. It's on Amazon Prime. I'm not sure what stream other than that it's on. But anyways, it's called The Guest Book. Season 2, a couple episodes in, this girl's like all strung out and crazy. And another girl's like, where'd you go? And she was like, I heard you talking to somebody. And she's like, I saw a ghost. Takes a huge swig of liquor. And like the way she said it, I don't think I've laughed that hard in months. It was just like so now like the three of us, anytime we see each other, we just be like, I saw a ghost.
Yeah.
Does it mean anything? No, but we all just like
No.
laugh.
It means that
hysterically.
moment.
Yes.
It means that moment. Like,
But anyways, The Guest Book. I've been watching it with my clients since then, and it's funny even the 5th time through.
it's the same reason why songs will make you smell a certain smell or bring back a memory, or scents will take you back to a childhood memory,
Mhm.
or like
Their old fashioned cream pie.
so custard, the drink custard, same. Yep. Anytime I've had it, I'm like, this is trash. I want grandma's lumpy, thick milk. What is this? What is whatever you're serving me? I don't know what this is.
Can't do it.
Yeah.
Can't do it.
Horchata.
If it's good.
There's only
mm,
one good horchata. There's only one way to do it right. Anything else is trash. So I get it.
How come some things are actually better the trashier they are? Like boiled peanuts. Like the more days they've been sitting there stewing, the better they are.
Some things are designed to develop flavor and some are not.
It's a fair point.
And most of the time when you think trash food, you break it down to simple and extra. So it's just a lot of combination of very simple flavors. So you're dealing with something that's like just meh. But if you let something soak, let flavors meld and absorb it, okay. Boiled peanuts instance, what's happening? You're throwing peanuts in water, then the water's turning into a brine. Then you're
Mm,
brining the peanuts, and then you're eating hot brined peanuts because they've sat in there for
You
2
go for
days.
just spicy or salty.
I'll do a mixy.
Oh, my man.
I'll do a half
You
a
already
scoop,
know my
half a
trick.
scoop, twirly. Sometimes little hot
I
sauce.
feel like we're saying it wrong too. We've been saying
Bowl.
boiled peanuts,
Bowl.
bowl peanuts. Go on down there.
Y'all gotta get
go on
bowl
down,
nuts.
Just bowl peanuts.
This is bull nuts.
Bowl nuts.
Bull nut. My mom and dad live in South
One of the Carolinas.
in one of them states. And the last time I was down there,
Geography's not his jam.
it's never been. Stuff's not my thought process. No.
Things in my thoughts and my words.
So we're down there, and I wasn't there for 24 hours. I was literally there to do some utilitarian things and get back on a flight home. And my flight left at like 7, and we stopped at a gas station at like 5:30. And I got a thing of fucking bowl nuts and ate them in the car on the way to the airport. And my mom's just looking at me like, what are you doing? And I was just happy as a clam.
They're so good. I was skeptic to try them. I can't believe I never tried them when I was younger.
They're yesterday's
Yeah.
batch. They were the
Yeah,
best.
just a few years ago that I tried them for the first time, and I was like, oh,
Wait, what?
these are delicious.
What?
But, I mean, I like peanuts and
Just the whole-
cashews and like Chinese
just the
food,
whole
so
thing,
I
man?
was open-minded to the idea.
Oh, fun.
What?
We've been talking about food a lot.
Are you gonna bring up the Burger King churros that we just tried?
No,
Oh, Those
no.
were pretty
but
good.
I'm just saying, like,
mixing those with my banana dessert next time.
making me hungry. It's really it. I ate a little piece of an edible earlier, and that's the most dangerous train you can ever get
A
on.
little piece.
Well, no, more of just like edibles just make me hungry. And then when there's more edibles, I eat one of those, and then those just make me hungry. And then I want it's a vicious cycle.
So,
Me
I
eating really
noticed-
stupid shit.
I've been trying to be more like health conscious lately, so I've been doing like a smoothie for breakfast with fresh
Mhm.
berries and what have yous.
Mhm.
And yesterday, so I feel like my sugar cravings are being curbed because I'm starting off my day with all of those like good fruit sugars, you
Mhm.
know? Yesterday, I did not have a smoothie. I had a breakfast sandwich from McDonald's.
And you were asleep by noon?
And I was not asleep by noon, but man, I had the worst sweet tooth at about 4 o'clock.
Huh?
So by the time 4:20 hit, I was like halfway through a bag of Pepperidge Farm cookies already.
Yeah. Yep. Well,
So then after 420, I almost finished the bag. Usually I eat like 3 or 4 of those and I'm golden. Like I could not, like I just needed more sugar. Like I was
Yep.
specifically craving, and I was glad I picked those cookies up because they had like the strawberry in them. And I think that I think now that I've switched away from like junk food sugar and Red Bull all the time, like my body actually was really wanting, it was like I was literally sugar crashing because I didn't have that
right.
boost in the morning.
Well, when you overload your system with not just sugar but high fructose corn syrup and not regular sugar but extra processed and Dairy
Yeah.
Queen sugar
Well,
or
my
not
body knows what to do
McDonald's
with
sugar,
banana. It
right?
knows what to do with strawberries and
That's a little more
blueberries,
el natural.
yogi,
I've been
pineapple,
from being off work,
local honey.
have been just gaining weight from not working. So like I've been recently trying to be like, yo, bro, ease up on that cheeseburger. And just not eating until noon is a great way to start. That's cut out half the day of calories. And it's not, I've just been trying to make healthier choices. I try not to diet because as soon as I'm like, I'm restricting myself, I'm like,
Just be mindful of portion
Weak.
control rather than telling yourself you can't have it, but just have less of it.
that's
kinda.
why the intermittent fasting style works for me.
Mhm.
I just choose to only eat for X amount of hours. And eventually you work yourself into a cycle where you don't want the cheeseburger because just like you're saying, you feel the full effects of your food.
Mhm.
When you're actually calorie deprived and your body's been living on its reserved fats and you put nutrients into your system, if you put junk in there, you get junk production. It's like running your car dry and then putting corn oil in it, like it just
Oof.
doesn't, see what I'm saying? It's just not the same. We'll give you that little you'll get through and you'll make it, but
It won't be
you
happy.
ain't running
It
smooth.
won't be happy.
Can't run a Porsche on low grade gas.
While we're on the topic of like quality food, tattoo preppy time.
See,
What do we do during tattoo preppy time? Eat right.
eat right. Personally, I try to start that the day before. Try to start drinking a bunch of water the day before because I want my skin to be like not
Hydrated,
dry and cracky when they go to work
healthy.
on it. So I try to like super hydrate the night before and then eat a big effing meal the day before my appointment. So my
Mhm.
body's
I like
already
carbo loading the
Yeah.
night before. If I could do like
Pasta.
pasta,
I treat it
do
like
an
a s-
Alfredo, a pasta salad or something like that, or baked. I'm a sucker for a baked potato.
I treat it like a swim meet or a track meet for
Mhm.
those of you that didn't swim laps as a kid.
It is.
You
It really is like a
carbo
marathon
load
in
the
your
day
body,
before.
though.
Yeah. So you've got the energy the next day to get you through. And then try to eat sensibly the day of. Don't want to overload on sugars for breakfast. You want to have something healthier. Because if you do, just like you were just talking about dropping, imagine doing that in the middle of a tattoo session.
Mhm.
You had all these heavy sugars and different fructoses in your system that aren't
Oh,
natural.
I've definitely been in
And
the
you
middle
just-
of long sessions and I feel it bottom out. And the other, I'm super
Oh, yeah.
pale. I don't know if you've ever noticed, but I am really pale.
You
So
get
like
translucent.
once you can see like
Mhm.
what the glucose level dropping, like I get pale,
Yep,
like
you get
I get
transparent.
almost blue.
I've seen you almost pass out. I know exactly what that looks like. You are see-through.
That was heat stroke.
It is the same thing, Fawn. Like your body is shutting down
No,
and saying no, thank you.
I
No, thank you.
that day. Kyle, do you know what that's from? Little movie called Princess Bride.
Jesus Christ. My way.
I died
My
that
fa-
day.
The best line in that is man and wife say man and wife.
Did you say I do? No, then you didn't.
Did you didn't? Hello.
Oh,
My
we
name
gotta
is
have
Amiga
so we gotta have so
Kill.
many movie nights with Guy. What we need to do is just start. Maybe that can be another project of ours. Is we could just sit here and get Stony and commentate on our classic movies.
Movie
How do
night
we
with
go
Kyle.
about doing that without running into any copyright issues? Do we just have to talk enough? Like let's say we wanted to like commentate on movies. Could we just like play the movie here and get Stony Baloney and commentate like every 15 seconds on what's going on? Can we do that, or does that
Well-
break copyright stuff?
You couldn't have the sound. You could have the movie playing in the background, but you couldn't have the sound. So there's
What if we have
there's
the
an
movie
entertainment
But
tax
you and
have
I
to
were
pay.
doing all of the vocals. What if we were commentating? What if we
No,
were not only commentating?
no, like singing Lion King as it happens. I don't know. I don't think so. So there's an entertainment license that you have to be able to broadcast certain media. It's the same reason bars couldn't play the sound of football games and things along those
Right.
lines. So we would have to do it Mystery Science Theater style.
That's what I'm saying. How do we do that? Do they just silence?
I think the movie would have to be silent, and I don't know.
What if we just write somebody and get permission?
Hey,
Hello.
I love when people just pop on the screen.
Thanks for
Oh.
joining us. Can you hear us okay?
Yes, I can. How's it going?
Hey Kyle, would you mind turning my headphones up just a little bit now that we got an outside
Yep.
voice?
Nice.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks for taking the time to join us today.
Thanks for having me.
I don't know if you were listening in earlier. I know you said you had some obligations, but I was talking about how much I've been enjoying your content over the last, few weeks and few months.
Well, thanks. Yeah, no, I sort of this is probably a foolish thing to say, but I'm sort of at the end of my tattoo collecting journey, right? And
Mhm.
I've wanted to be prepared to fill that void just in terms of time and things to look forward to and whatnot. And so I thought that this would be my way of doing that, giving back, trying to be a resource to people, and also, as you've probably seen on my social media, just really having a push for more acceptance of tattoos among professionals and specifically physicians.
Please and thank you. So let's take a whole giant step back for those of you that don't know who you are. Let's go ahead and introduce yourself and what it is exactly that you're talking about here.
Sure. So my name is Matt Davis. I am a physician. Psychiatrist is my specialty, or psychiatry is my specialty. I've been a psychiatrist for actually 15 years now.
Wow.
So I'm a physician just like any other doctor. I went to medical school like your OBGYN or surgeon or primary care doctor. Just chose to specialize in psychiatry. I've been collecting tattoos for, well, I got my first tattoo when I was 18. That doesn't really count because it was terrible.
No, it still counts. Because you had to
Yeah.
cover it, rework it, do something around it, camouflage it, something. It's still there, I promise.
Oh yeah, no, it's still there. Even though I tried with laser and multiple cover-ups, finally it's covered with something good.
Nice.
Yeah, so I got my first couple. Thinking back, tattoos were something I really became interested in when I was probably about, I don't know, 14 or 15. There was an article in Sports Illustrated where Shaq, actually, of all people, was talking about getting his first tattoo, which is a Superman tattoo.
I remember that article.
Yeah, that was influential.
About the same time, I don't know, I was probably a little younger, but like I remember being like, tattoos make them different, and that's what's cool about it. Right. I specifically remember that. That's odd.
That's funny. Yeah, we have that shared memory. Well, because I don't think back then tattoos were at all in any type of mainstream or pop culture, right? So the fact that it was in Sports Illustrated, which is a pretty mainstream, medium, that was probably the first time I had really ever read about anybody even getting a tattoo, to be honest.
Yeah, in my hometown, there was usually only one, but there was like one or two shops that would pop up and then move around and pop up
Right.
again and what have you. But you didn't see, like, growing up in the 90s. I never remembered seeing any tattoo that I thought was like good and beautiful in the 80s. In the 90s, not so much. Like once we start getting into the 2000s and like people started doing less traditional, but like bigger, brighter, experimenting with bolder lines, bolder colors. And then it started getting my attention. And then I started seeing like beautiful portrait work
Right.
in like Tom Renshaw's beautiful nature scenes. And
It had a lot to do with the size for me. I feel like early tattooing, the tattoos were more trinket, and to watch it go from super simple traditional to now we're filling the whole bicep to now you've got to fill the whole area to now you're coming in for a half sleeve or a quarter panel.
Or a full body suit.
Because the art started developing more. I say it all the time. It's crazy to think about 15, 20 years ago, starting your collection when your options were only there's 3 styles. Pick one. Like,
I don't know. I remember, so I got my first tattoo would have been in '04, I believe. And I had to search all over the place to find an artist who like did anything that was even remotely artistic, anything that didn't just look like a tattoo. You know what I mean? Like
that's what I meant by there was only 3 styles. Most of the time you
being
would
an
go into a
artist,
shop.
I
There'd
wanted to
be
find like a artist that could
Right.
pull off some nice things. So I found Carissa Gray in Saugatuck, Michigan, but that was 75 miles away. So, you know, it took months of combing through all the artists that I could find. And granted, internet wasn't what it is now. It wasn't
Right.
quite as easy to track things down then. But it was just few and far between for something that wasn't cookie cutter.
right. That's fair. Street shops used to rule. Now it's the exact opposite.
Mhm.
There's 1 or 2 street shops, and everywhere's now a private studio.
So how old were you when you started like collecting like larger, like, you know, when you started considering
More
yourself a collector,
seriously.
I guess?
Yeah, it was probably about 10 years ago. It was work to sort of honor my family. My daughter in particular was kind of what started it. I made a very terrible Photoshop that represented her name. It was this night sky. Her name is Phoebe, and it means goddess of the moon. I'm a big astronomy fan, and I looked at it, I thought, geez, you know, this could, even though it's terribly rendered, somebody with some more talent maybe could turn it into a tattoo. But
Mhm.
you were both talking about, I mean, my experience with tattoos goes back to the late 90s. So what was considered creative then, one of my first tattoos was somebody who took 2 different pieces of flash and put them together. And like that was, you know,
Yep.
your individualized design.
Yeah.
So when I get to looking, you know, going back about 10 years ago, I looked around, I saw some stuff that looked cool, looked like a significant evolution from what I had, you know, seen 10 or 15 years before that. But finally, through word of mouth, I stumbled upon Tyler Malik. He's the first person. He's done most of my work, well, not
Mhm.
most, a large part, my sleeve and my full back. And when I saw his work on Instagram, I was like, this is possible as a tattoo. I was blown away.
Yeah, it's insane to me to see how far and what is possible now with the new equipment and the stylus inks that are out now, and just how far the technical side of it has come along in comparison to when I first started collecting. Like all these rotary pins with no clip cords, and you're, you know, like floating free, and in comparison to there's 7 colors. We got 3 size lines, and I got 2 shaders. It's like, you ready? That's your world of palette. Like, have fun. It's pretty cool to see the evolution.
Man,
And fast.
Right.
I try to imagine what it would be like to work with those limitations, but man, to be a collector with those limitations, any of the work that I have wouldn't have even been possible with that palette.
Right.
Like,
Well, luckily, I still thought that stuff was super cool. Like, I was in, like, American traditional is my shit. Like, I have 2 full sleeves of it. I loved it. I ate it up. I remember being like, Sailor who? Norman what? And then now there's like, it's everywhere. It's like, I'm like, no, I did not get this off a bottle of rum. I promise you. Like, I had to find this in a book.
I bet this is
They're like, wait,
traditional.
there's a book? What? You didn't find that on the Google webs?
I know a book that has a binding on it,
Right.
open pages.
It's you almost got it because it wasn't popular. You know, that's I've said it many times. That's why I started getting tattooed. It created a nice little I don't want to talk to you bubble. I don't have to let you in if you're so narrow-minded to think that I'm a piece of shit without talking to me. give me my 15 feet. Stay over there and be judgmental. That's fine. We don't need to be friends. My world is full of cool people. And
But
you
now,
can stay over there. And then
now
Miami
you've
Ink
got
happened,
people touching you.
and they think it's okay to just converse all willy-nilly. It's different. It's just different.
Do you find that people react differently, like when like you wear a sleeveless shirt and you show your work off? Do you notice any difference as opposed to when you cover it?
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the cool things I think about tattoos, which is that they're kind of an icebreaker. They're a way of connecting with people,
Mhm.
just as much as they are a way of pushing people away. Because I completely agree with that. One of the things that's motivated me to become a collector and cover myself to the extent that I have is I had huge body image issues for a lot of my life. I had major struggles with my weight and everything. And I mean, I'm sure some of this was just my body image stuff, but I always felt very judged for being a pretty obese person, especially in medicine. And a lot of the tattoo stuff for me has almost been healing. Like, you've judged me for so much of my life on something that I feel like I didn't have all that much control over. All right, fine. Now that it is under control, you can judge me based on my terms now.
That's
And
a awesome way to
Yep.
look at it.
Yep, I love it.
It's like
I
a
love
way
it.
to take ownership of your body and transform it into what you want it to be and what you can imagine it to be.
I had a similar conversation with a gentleman of all things waiting in the ER waiting room. He sat down and was talking to me about what my decision process for tattooing my hands was. And he was not being as aggressive as they make it sound, but essentially like, how do you eat, bro? You know what I mean? Like, and I'm sitting there explaining to him like, hey, well, about 10 years ago, I made the decision that if somebody's not willing to deal with me as a person and you're going to stop me from making money from having tattoos on my hands, I don't need to be associated with your business. And I can take my assets and my skill set somewhere else and make money somewhere else.
Kind of goes back to that old, I need a job, but I don't need this.
I don't need
job.
this job. And he just kind of gave me that look like, well, how'd that work out for you, poor man? So I was sitting there in bum shorts and a tank top, And I was like, well, actually I cleared X amount last year. And he looked at me and he went, oh, so
you're doing okay for
you're
yourself.
doing all right then. You guys hiring? Literally by the end of the conversation, he was asking me if we were hiring. I thought it was funny. But it was one of those, like, he came at it not rudely, but from a honest inquiry. He
concerned.
really wanted to know, like, how are you financially stable enough to think that was the right career move for you to do? How many doors you shut by tattooing your hands? And that's was his approach. And I saw it, So I talk about tattoos a lot. So I had a very couth answer for him. Don't get me wrong, but it was very like, that's kind of ballsy to say that to somebody in a waiting room. Like, in the back of your head, you were assuming I was a artist and or a piece of shit. So to sit down and be like, oh wait, hold on, this guy can actually hold a conversation. I mean, I'm cutting a 40-minute conversation down to 3 seconds here, but it really got to the point where I was like, yeah, man,
He was
We're just
delightfully
people
surprised
too.
by the end of it.
we're just people too. It was weird.
Oh,
was
that's the
weird.
way to look at it.
Then they called my name and I was really hoping I never had to tell it to him. So then when I came back out, he was still there and he's like, bye, Ben. And I was like, fuck.
You got a new Facebook friend.
Fuck. I was really just trying to.
New Facebook friend.
Yeah, it's awkward. It's awkward. And it's like, it's almost immediately condemning for people that don't understand that tattoos are fucking expensive. And they get these in jail. Like, this isn't trash ballpoint pen work. Like,
No, honestly, that's one of the things that kind of adds to the not only like accomplishment of getting large tattoos, but it adds to like the sense of gratitude to be in a space where I can afford the kind of work that I've collected.
Right.
Is not everybody can even afford that. Like, I'm walking around with not one but 2 or 3 cars on my body.
or when
You know
people
what I
are
mean?
like, oh, my homie can do it cheaper. Oh, you paid
Okay.
what for your tattoo? And my arm looks like this, and yours looks like the desk from detention. So we can, okay.
The infinity S, little prison star.
Yes. Yeah.
Stacy
If you've got-
spelled wrong.
If you've got more than one nautical star in your sleeve, this conversation has already stopped. So, no,
Wait
I'm
a
just
second,
kidding.
what if there's one on each sleeve? Is that okay?
That was really a poor example because if you're getting nautical stars for the correct reason, I'm gonna give you a high five.
All right. fair.
But my points is made. So how do you correlate your tattoo collecting to your psychology? How does that link work for you? What's your approach there?
For my own psychology, or in terms of like how I interact with patients at work, or
Either or.
Probably.
I love that you take that as a split.
I'm curious about both, but I'm curious about how it helps or, how it affects the way you interact with your patient.
You mentioned briefly it's a good icebreaker, but do you use it as any other like common ground or humanizing or like what's your best approach and what's your main thought process behind that, I guess?
no, great, really insightful questions. In psychiatry, I mean, in medicine in general, but certainly as psychiatrists, we're trained to really minimize self-disclosure with patients. But if there's an opportunity to disclose a personal detail, if you as the individual are comfortable with it and you think that it's helpful in the relationship with your patient, in the therapeutic relationship, then you can disclose it, right? So like a classic example is a patient might ask you if you're married, right? And some psychiatrists are trained to not answer that question or to sort of evade it, or to, of course, turn it back on the patient. Well, why do you want to know if I'm married? What's
Right.
the significance?
You're
to
the
you?
expert on you.
Right, exactly. But in that time, if you feel like, hey, there is a reason why am I disclosing my marriage status might be helpful for this therapeutic relationship with whatever the patient's going through, then you can disclose it. It's the same with tattoos. I don't necessarily walk around flaunting my tattoo. I mean, usually I wear like a suit at work, business
Right.
suit. But there are patients, especially those who I see as having a lot of tattoos, and I'll talk with them about them. And at first, I think they're a little bit surprised, like, is this guy just placating me, or is he just, bullshitting me trying to find an in?
Right.
But now, especially with my hand being tattooed,
That's different.
they know I'm probably not just using some baloney icebreaker. So
Well, we talk all the time about the hidden connection between not trinket tattoo collectors, heavy collectors.
Oh yeah.
You're at the
that, like,
grocery
tribal
store
connection.
and you see the other guy with 3/4 of his bodysuit
where
done.
you look at somebody, you make eye
You don't
contact.
need to talk.
It's
You
like-
got that instant. So if I came into your office and saw that you had ample tattoos, I
Yeah.
would instantly take a deep breath and feel that would calm me the fuck down instantly. That was why I had asked that. I was like, do you use that as like a specifically target marketing, or is that more of a easier way for you, or is it more personal? Like that.
yeah, so I work in a hospital setting, so I don't have to like market my services. I just kind of
Perfect.
who comes in the door. But it's exactly it. It's a way. I'm a stranger to these people, and they're going through some type of crisis, and oftentimes they don't really know who they can trust. Maybe because they've been victims of trauma, maybe because they have paranoia, whatever. But like exactly what you're saying, there's this kinship that I think a lot of us have, because we know what it means to go through getting a tattoo.
Right.
And especially, the process itself, the pain, the healing, but also again, how we're viewed in society. So there's a lot of, so much, my patients are unfortunately sort of marginalized, the fringes of society, and tattoos for so long have also been at the fringes of society. So it's kind of a way, it really does. It's a huge connection, not
love
just,
it.
we're saying that collector connection, but like how we're viewed in society. Exactly.
No, and I love that about how you're using that. A lot of times now we have a lot of people that are target marketing tattooers for and it's not a bad thing, but that's their wheelhouse. Now they're like, how do I apply this to help a certain niche? So I was just kind of curious of not what your angle, that makes it sound sleazy. I'm not trying to turn you into a used car salesman by any shape or form, but that's how I look at a lot of this stuff. Especially in a mental health realm, there becomes a weird fame or fortune kind of mindset that a lot of these people kind of I don't know. It's a weird process for me. If you got your collection specifically to be like, hey, I'm normal, like that's different. So what was your mindset behind starting your collection? I mean, other than you said you had body issues, but once you started collecting, was there more of a drive behind it than that, or was that pretty much your main?
Yeah, so those things sort of happened like hand in hand. I get the sleeve sort of in honor of my family, and then I get my my full back done because it's all these things. I think about like the consciousness of the universe, whatever weird trippy stuff we can talk about another time. But at that point, I really thought I was done, which is still a decent amount of coverage.
Yeah.
But as I get more into understanding all the different types of art, all the amazing artists, it was one of those things where I looked at it for actually a couple of years before I went and get anything beyond my sleeve and back done. But at that point, I just said, I can't, I need this, I need
Right.
pieces from some of these people. And even then, I don't think I ever thought I would be a collector or as much of a collector, or
Same.
definitely would have a bodysuit.
Same.
Yeah. But
I went in for trinket tattoos and
Huh.
loved the culture so much that got hooked on being a friend of the shop, and I wanted to hang out there because, well, a male camaraderie and a sense of belonging, and you're looking for that stuff in your early 20s and stuff like that. So to be able to be involved and enveloped in that, I think what you're doing is already cool, but you guys just hang out here every day. I can pop by on my way home and say what's up to the homies, and you guys are forced to hang out with me because you're stuck at work. But you know what I mean? Like I got wrapped up in the local, like these are my tattooers, this is my home base, really feel of it. And that was the draw for me. Tattoos were a side product. Yes, I love them, but it was more about going back to the circus, like getting back in that environment and getting back in that, like, these guys hold the same views and live the kind of life that I think I want to live, and things along those lines. And it offered a lot of different opinion and a lot of different views for someone at that age that was, kind of still trying to figure out who and where and what they want to be, since then.
There's so much good energy, I think, at tattoo conventions, tattoo shops, and I agree with you. That's something that really appealed to me that I wasn't expecting when I started the process.
Speaking of tattoo conventions, you were just at the New England Expo, right?
Oh, nice.
Yes.
Cleaned house.
I did pretty well. Yeah, I won 7 awards. Best.
He's like, I only won all of the awards.
Everything I entered.
They wouldn't let me enter best small color. Sorry.
It meant a lot, actually, because the work there was really good. I mean, there are a lot of really good artists, and there are a lot of really good collectors and people with just beautiful work. So it's one of those things I was telling other people I was in the contest with, like, look, if you win, like, no issue, like, you have beautiful work. And there's some degree of subjectivity with all of this stuff.
Absolutely. Well, that's the thing. Art touches everyone different, and your panel of judges, if all of the art is technically sound, they're looking at technical tattooing, right? So if all your technical tattooing is sound, they're looking at the technical side of the art. And if it gets down to where the technical side of the art is correct, it's coming down to subject matter.
It gets
So,
hard when I'm judging.
really-
Sometimes
If
it like
everybody's stuff's on point, it comes down to who likes whose tattoo better. Like,
yeah, when it's almost easier to judge when it's like a field of like B+ quality tattoos and there's like a few A+ home
you can't do
runs.
that at House City.
But when
You can't do
there's,
that
like-
in New England. You can't do
Yeah,
that in
when there's
Texas.
like 74 A++
Right.
tattoos in a row, and it's like, oh, this is the best thing I've ever seen in my life. Next, oh, this is the best thing I've ever
Right.
seen in my life. Next.
It really comes down to personal taste at that point.
Sometimes it does. Sometimes for me, if we're talking about like tattoo of the day, or we're talking the fresh tattoo competitions.
What's gonna
I imagine what's going to heal the nicest. And I tattoo, I spend my face 6 inches away from somebody else's skin all the time. I feel like I've got a pretty good knack for knowing
Right.
which is gonna heal fine and which pieces are gonna need a touch up. Sometimes that's a deciding factor. Just because a tattoo needs a touch up, does that make it any less of a tattoo than the one next to it? No, everybody's body is different. Everybody's technique and application is different. But if there's this tattoo and it's like, that is A+++, and I know that's going to look exactly that good in 10 years.
That looks silky smooth.
Sometimes that the heel is the deciding factor.
I've heard a lot of people will use age as well. So they're like, yeah, these are both A+ pieces, but his is 10 years old and yours is 3.
Well, yeah,
And the
it's
10-year-old
it's already
tattoo
stood the test of
His
time.
whole I'm with you. I run the camera at Hell City. I sit front stage, so I hear all this. I've never judged a tattoo competition in my life. I don't want to come off like I actually know what I'm talking about, but I hear him talk about it a lot. So,
Well, yeah, I was proud. I mean, like my back piece that I saw Tyler Malik did, that's 7 years old now, and that came in second. And there were a lot of entries, and there's probably 30 entries. And I told Tyler that, I said, dude, for you to have a 7-year-old, full color back piece come in second at that convention, that speaks to how well you applied that tattoo.
Yep.
Yep. One of the hard things is like when we're talking back, let's say we're doing the card style of judging, and we've narrowed it down to like the top 5 or 6 or 7 pieces that are our favorite. And now every one is a home run. So then we start like, okay, which ones are full the back, which ones are like shoulders to butt cheeks, which ones stop a little shy, like which ones utilize to the full canvas. Like then it becomes like nitpicky factors like that. When like every single one is a home run, it becomes so hard to differentiate. And sometimes, like for instance, if you were to compare my back to Andrea's back, our guest Andrea we've had on, who has loafs work everywhere. Are they both geometric? Yes. Are they both stinking amazing? Yes. It's one of the reasons I love competing with her, because we know each other now, and she and I have a rapport with one another. So it's like when we've stood up there naked together a few times. So there's like camaraderie. Yeah, there's camaraderie of that. And she gets up there and she shows it all off just like I do. But like when we talk to her after the fact, you can see how nervous she is, just like I am. Like we just swallow it and look like we're okay being up there totally exposed. Yeah, I'm okay with it's like, oh no, they're not looking at the shape of my body. They're looking at the artwork
And how it shapes on your body. Like that's why you're there. Well, that's something so running cameras, that's something we have to be mindful of and remember whole frame, right? So like my goal is to show the tattoo and not the person's body part.
You do a good job with it. You're pretty slick about it.
It's taken a year or two.
Sometimes I have noticed, sometimes you'll be like, oh, we're going there.
We're changing.
Look at the skylight.
And look at the side.
But where I was going when I was talking about Andrea is like, our backs technically fit into the same category, but how do you even compare them? Like that's a perfect example of it's going to come down to the taste of the judges.
Right.
We've competed together where she took first, and we've competed together where I took first. And I don't think either one of us has any hard feelings towards the other. Like we both admire each other's work.
Well, and art is subjective. Everybody's taste is a little bit different. Everybody likes their eggs a little bit different. So like,
sometimes people with geometric work will look at mine and they'll be like, I never thought of making it 3-dimensional. Duh.
My favorite is I never thought you would have a tattoo like that.
Oh, cheekies and all?
More of like when I start showing like my back or like my full color, like the leg. People are like, oh my God.
Oh, it keeps going.
There's so much color and so much that you have nature, and how many flowers do you have? And then they really start looking, and it's weird. people notice your tattoos more when you have less. So if you started collecting splotchy all over, right? People will notice the individual tattoos more than your sleeve. And people won't look at your individual tattoos once you have full coverage, right? They're like, oh, nice tattoos. They look at it as one thing.
Yeah, nobody
So
ever looks
I
at my
don't-
leg.
I don't
Nobody's ever been
show
like
people
nice
individual
alien
pieces.
flower growing out of a rock. They're always like, oh, nice leg tat.
Right.
Hey, girl. And I'm like, mm-mm.
They're because hey girl, what you got on me? No,
Nice
I'll
leg
stop.
tat. Your old man tat. Yes, he
Yep,
does.
he does.
Yep.
I say the same thing. No, it's my old man. My wife does it all, actually. So go ahead and flip the script in your brain. No, but
It is funny when we're out together because I go out to breakfast or lunch or dinner
Life.
with, Ben and child and all the things very often. And people will look at him and they'll be like, you tap, bro. And he'll be like, they'll, like, point at me and they like think we're messing with them. And it's
Actually,
like, but no, for
most of the time,
real.
I don't give like I don't even try to shoot you the no, she's the one because I'm not trying to put that pressure on Waffle House breakfast
Yeah, but
because she wants her daughter's name on her neck and that's just not your lane. So
that's fair.
like,
That is fair.
let's just avoid the whole
That
thing
is-
and
you,
say
you
no.
don't usually throw it at me unless we're in the right setting.
It
Thank
is-
you for that.
Well,
Thank you for that.
That's why we're allowed to hang out.
One time I was at a bar sightseeing and I was with my friend Allie and she's covered with Adam France work too. And she's got a leg sleeve from me as well. And somebody walks up and they're talking to us and they're like, hey, is one of you Fawn Baker? And I was like, her. And I walked away. Later on, she's like, don't ever do that to me again. I was like, it sucks, doesn't it? She's like, I'll never tell people that you're you when we're hanging out ever again. I was like, thanks.
Imagine trying, okay, me, non-tattooer, doing anything with Derb.
I mean, it was
motherfucking
just
Morse.
funny. I only left her there for just a moment before I came back and saved her. I didn't bail on her.
Do you know how many times me in any type of event, any type of show, people just automatically assume I am an artist here, B, on Derb's caliber, C, a tattooer, and then they just start like, and I'm just like, stop. I'm not him. I've never written a magazine about it. No, Shh. I carry cables. Like I'm the janitor.
You
like
do more than
I know,
carry
but
cables.
in
You
the-
paint too.
I painted a wall once or twice, but you get my drift. Like in that arena, people just automatically assume you're somebody, and you're like, wait, no, like I'm the guy that's in charge of coffee and snacks. Like, calm your tits. I'm not. You can't get a discount for being nice to me. Like, stop.
Have you had anybody just assume that you're a tattooer because your hand's tattooed yet? Do they just assume?
No, actually, when you were talking, I was kind of thinking back, and somewhat surprisingly, no, nobody has that I can think of has made that assumption.
You need more gym shorts and t-shirts in your life, bud. It'll happen in a couple days.
I
You can
live
just
in
start
Maine.
taking deposits. Like,
Yeah, up here in Maine, we don't get too many opportunities to rock out in our tank tops and shorts. But even when
fair bet. Fair bet, says the guy still in a sweatshirt. We understand.
yeah, for another month actually.
I have goals and dreams of hiking the Appalachian Trail that
Oh.
end at Katahdin. And they say that's actually the weirdest weather switch because they're like, no, it's all hunky dory till you get there and it's freezing.
I haven't personally been to Katahdin, but I have heard that, and I really do need. I'm not a native Mainer, but there are definitely Maine things I got to do, and that's on the list for sure.
I was thinking about just going there and just doing that part just to get it over with, just, little taster.
Is that what
Yeah.
they call people that live in Maine? Is Mainers,
A Mainer?
not Manians, maniacs?
I think a manian is what I'm going to say from now on, regardless of the proper word.
I'm sorry. It's the weed.
It's the weed.
Well, I'll see. Maybe we can get like that petition on like the next ballot or something. So
Change the-
yeah.
We're Ohioans. I always thought that was
Yeah.
dumb too.
Ohioans.
I want to be an Ohioanese.
Is it Michiganian or Michigander?
I
I feel
don't-
like I've heard both. I feel like Michigander
See, and
sounds
what
like
we're doing, Fawn,
kindergartners.
is just dividing us further.
I'm
Can
asking.
we just be people? Can we all just?
I'm just asking the proper nomenclature.
I am just saying we should break down all walls of separation,
Throw away all names,
all lines, all
Yeah,
borders.
all state lines.
I'm just saying, the world would be a more peaceful place if we stopped separating, and started
Would.
joining.
Would
High fives or whatever. So what happens to you, like we smoke weed over there.
all
Heal the
day.
world.
Make it a better place. We even harmonized.
We often break into song. I apologize that it's horrible, but it's part of the step.
I love being serenaded.
Oh, you're so sweet to lie to us. You're such a nice guy. You can come anytime. So do you have a specialty in psychology, or do you just kind of what exactly, what field do you work in?
Yeah, psychiatry, so inpatient, which is primarily what I've done during my career. A little bit about outpatient stuff. So, folks who are going through a crisis and as a result of their mental illness, it's not safe for them to be in a less restricted setting. They really need to be in a hospital for their own safety or the safety of those around them. So like the most common conditions that I would work with are patients who have bipolar disorder, schizophrenia, major depressive disorder, that type of thing.
Heavy stuff. That's got to be extremely mentally taxing. And that kind of shows in your fortitude. We talk about that even just in collecting, that it takes a certain mindset to be able to stick through the collecting. And that makes sense in your job now, why getting a bodysuit with no sweat. Because man, that's got to be tough. I could not do it.
It is, but it's really rewarding at
Sure.
the same time, and that's really what sustains us, because I feel like I have been able to make the difference in the lives of a lot of people, and I've seen them at their worst, and situations that a lot of us probably would be in if we lived through the crap that these people have had to live through.
Right.
Mhm.
But seeing them like take some steps in their recovery and get back to some semblance of a life, or even a really good life in some cases, those have been my favorite stories. One of the sad things in the work I do is, because I only work with people for a short period of time, I get them stable enough to go back into the community, but I don't necessarily get to see like where their lives go. Do they get married? Do they have kids? Do they go to school? What
Right.
jobs do they get? But occasionally we will get that person who comes back, and it's like seeing a completely different human being.
Nice.
And I wish more of society saw that, because I think in society's mind, people with mental illness is like they're different. They're just put them over here and forget about them. And it's like, if you saw that they're just like you were saying, we're all in this together, this idea of living, right, as human beings. And if you saw what they're just like you and me.
Yeah.
They're not people to be cast aside.
That's got to be tough too, as a patient, to be at that rock bottom point to where you're I don't want to say forced into, that's the wrong words, because you should never be forced to do anything for yourself for mental health. But like when you're at that breaking point, when you're at that lowest low, and you're going through that with somebody, that style of connection is really, really hard for some people. Like that was the hardest part for therapy about me, was getting over that. Like, do I trust you enough to tell you the real shit? You know what I mean? Like, or are we going to keep this surface? Or like, how deep do you want to go down the rabbit hole? Right. So I recently went through some things in my life where I started seeing someone about once a week, and it got to the point where they were just like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I got a Dear John fucking text the other day. She's taking a leave of absence. I was like, my therapist just broke up with me. What the fuck? Like, that's another story. But that immediate, like, once I got over that hump and that willingness to, I couldn't imagine doing that short term with somebody. I couldn't imagine just going through that part, like that, the raw, and then just being like, okay, good luck. I was just to the point for after coaching. Like, you know what I mean? Like and to then have to send somebody off into the world, that's gotta be rough.
Yeah, I would equate it to being like an ICU doctor where like you're not going to have that full experience. Like you're there to get them stable, whether it's somebody who's, just suffered a heart attack and they're in the ICU, or there's somebody that's suffering from an episode of bipolar disorder, they're manic and they're with me. And so my role is really to get through that crisis. So you're right. It is a different type of relationship that I wind up having versus somebody like as an outpatient. Yeah.
It's funny you phrased it as crisis, because I was just telling my significant other that I need a therapist that's just a crisis negotiator. Just pop in, handle some shit, put me back on my everything's okay course, and then
I just need an emotional support human to give me a nudge every now and then when I need it.
that the non-biased opinion was always my thing. Like, you don't have a reason to lie to me. You've got no gain from this conversation.
Mhm.
It's hard for me to trust someone in my life enough to have that serious of a conversation with them, because I feel like every human in your life is out for you in some, like even in a non-harmful way, like more information to give somebody, the more the weapons they have to hurt you, type of thing.
That's
It-
a I don't think that uncommon of a feeling.
So it's really, once I cross that threshold, you get dumped on and you get all the things and every detail of my life. There's no in between. You're either shallow friend way over here, or the day my grandma died. Like there's no middle ground.
There's like acquaintance, part friend.
Right.
And it's
Not a lot
funny
Not a lot of people make that.
because there's all these different types of psychotherapy, right? There's like the psychoanalysis, things people think about with like Freud or whatever, and then there's things like cognitive behavioral therapy, which is very manualized, and it's not about delving into the past and your issues with your mom. It's about sort of practically understanding what causes you to engage in certain behaviors and how you can kind of deal with the thoughts and emotions that lead you into those behaviors if they're causing a problem for you. But those are just a couple of examples. But what studies have been done, and they've shown actually the specific type of therapy does not matter so much. So if you're going to a therapist for anxiety or depression, whether they're doing psychoanalysis or CBT or supportive therapy, whatever the case, that doesn't matter as much. The thing that matters more than anything is the relationship with the therapist.
Right.
And that's exactly what you were saying, right? Because you're not going to get better unless you can be real. And
Yep.
that's again where I think the tattoo stuff comes in for me. Like I didn't get tattooed to forge relationships with patients. I mean, if anything, I was really terrified, honestly, at the outset once I started having more visible work, if it was going to affect my employability. But now that I am so heavily tattooed, it is that way of having that connection, which I think exists for more people than not. I think society's changed a lot for the better in that way.
I loved that immediate connection. We had Robbie Ripoll on, and he is a life coach and I think that's all he I don't want to call him a therapist. That's not right. And he claims not to be a therapist. He doesn't have any.
Kind of like tattooer, life coach, happiness extraordinaire.
Right. And he helps a lot of people focus on things to make them happy. Right. And within 15 minutes, this guy was ripping me to shreds. Like I'm like divulging my life to him because there was this immediate like trust, and it's all on film.
And I'm listening to it, and Ben and we're very close. Like, we
Right.
know each other very well. And when I'm listening, I'm like, oh wow, I knew that story, but I can't believe he's sharing that story.
And it was at the point where like at the end of the episode, I had realized that I just dumped all my trauma on a podcast, and I got this like real like, okay, so there's a fucking microphone.
This Ben,
That's back in the bottle there. Yeah.
Right. I was kidding. That was all scripted.
do this. Do you think you felt like there was more of a weight lifted because there was a mic on when you shared those things? Like, do you
No.
think that was more lifting than was like, let's say, just me and you talking about some of those things?
We just get so comfortable, and we've done this for quite some time.
Mhm.
In a video chat situation. And that night was a little bit more intimate. It was just Kyle and I here. And we had the screen pulled up pretty large and it was pretty close to us. So it stops being a show at some point. Because you fall into that conversational pattern
Mhm.
with somebody, and especially when we started off with a pretty weird conversation that show as well. And so Robbie was kind of off his guard a little bit, and he was like, okay, so let me shift the conversation. And as soon as he did, like him and I just like we locked eyes, like we're fucking doing it. And it was like by the end of the show, I had realized that through our conversation, he opened me up all the fucking way. And it was like I was telling stories, like she said, that I don't tell people. And it was literally one of those moments where like I was like, I remember I literally was like, yeah. And I looked up in the camera and I was like, oh shit. This is the 14th time I've cried in our show today. Great.
We've
Awesome,
leaked before
awesome.
though. It's not
I'm
like
not
it's the
afraid to
first time
leak.
one of
It
us
was
has
more of-
leaked. We're giant softies.
I don't normally talk about anything personal on this show. And I'm telling him like family problems and shit. Like it was a lot for me. And it was actually, I'm still, I don't want to say embarrassed. That's not the right word, but that I'm still very guarded about that episode. I've considered asking you guys to take it down several times because it's a lot of me.
I don't think it's too much. Without knowing more context to the stories you shared, you didn't like divulge any personal
It's
details
hard.
per se.
It's hard from the other side
Mhm.
to think that because I know all the details.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? So like
No,
I knew exactly what I meant when I said
I
that.
don't think you
So-
said anything on air that crossed your own privacy lines,
I
in my opinion. as
I
a
normally don't
listener.
even like say my daughter's name on this show.
Yeah,
out of
usually I
habit,
even
like-
call her your spawn.
yeah, or LB.
Your
Like I don't,
child.
just because I don't my life is my life. You know, so it was very I felt real raw. I didn't sleep a bunch that night. I went home and was like, motherfucker. Like I wasn't mad in any way, shape, or form, but to go through that much dump in one short span of time, I hadn't told that much to my therapist the entire time I've been.
Well, Robbie just got you. He just crawled into your
did.
heart and pulled the right strings, and out it all came.
I swore at him several times for doing it.
And that's where that relationship stuff matters, right? Because you obviously had that relationship with him and the way you didn't with your therapist. But
I'd never met the dude. That was the first time I talked to him.
yep,
I shook his hand one time at a convention, like, hey man, nice to meet you. Like that was as deep as our relationship went before the camera started rolling. So
Yeah.
it was a very like can opener style. Yeah,
There it is.
here we go.
well, I give you a lot of credit, honestly, and being. I mean, obviously, this is my first time sort of participating, but being as open as you are to talking about mental health and that you have a therapist and everything, because I think we're changing for the better. I mean, in the last few years, I think people are more accepting of that we all need help with our mental health at times.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I love the shift in the culture, just like you're saying. Like, I'm a marshmallow. Don't tell anybody. I have a rough exterior. Nobody actually knows. Shh. So, like, I've always needed an emotional support human, and anybody that's that calloused, it's time for all of us to just kind of be like, it's okay. We're all in it together. Like, I don't see the point of beating your head up against the wall trying to figure it out yourself, because as soon as you start talking to somebody that is non-biased and educated and not emotionally involved in your decision-making process, to kind of go, well, have you looked at it this way? Or whatever needs to be done was such a gap shortener in the healing process, or gap shortener in the trauma negotiation, or how am I now going to implicate my new habits and patterns and lifestyle. It was a very, if I would have done all that on my own, I still wouldn't be anywhere near the level of socially balanced that I am. And I'm still
Well,
kind of a hermit. So
I mean,
does that mean that was the biggest thing for me, having the space just to honestly think through it and say things out loud. without feeling like someone's going to judge you for it.
Exactly, right. I mean, that's the thing. And, I think for myself, it's something that's always come naturally to me. I mean, going back to when I was probably, I don't know, 12 or 13, I was that person all my friends came to. Like, I was the guy that you could call at 2 a.m. and tell me the craziest, most effed up situation. And people know I'm just not really a judgmental.
I'm on my way. We'll figure it out later.
Yeah.
Like,
The only
same.
thing I was gonna say the only things I judge people on really are like, are you an a-hole? Like if you're a jerk, I'm judgmental of you. But pretty much beyond that, like whatever, man, like it's cool. Let's just talk through it.
Well, and heaven forbid you made a mistake. We've all made mistakes. I've had the I'm too drunk phone call. I'd rather you call me than try to drive home. Like I'd rather come change your flat tire and help out than you struggle through it. So like it's one of those things. Like I'm kind of I take it
told
as a
my friends,
privilege.
I'm a grouch in the middle of the night, but still call. I'll
Yeah.
still come get you. I might be in sweatpants and like a backwards t-shirt and an upside down hoodie,
I'm
but like
coming.
I'll be there, like grumbling and looking forward to my coffee, but I'll be there.
Same. I was just like you're saying, I was always the guy that people called to like work things through and like get advice from. And I'm like, I can't to have that person in somebody else. I never had it because nobody else, I was the guy that answered the questions. So it made me distrust anybody else's mental stability in the most generic way possible. I'm not saying I think anyone is crazy for ever talking to me. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is it's like, if you're coming to me for help, I'm not comfortable asking you for help.
Mm,
So like even in like when
yeah, it's like the dynamic has already been established.
right,
that
and I don't mean that in any way, shape, or form disrespectful. Like, but when
It's like
when
they've already been established as grasshopper.
right,
So you can't bring your big problems, the sensei
you
problems
can't-
to grasshopper.
right, if you can't negotiate your own thing, in my mind, and I know that you're perfectly capable of doing it without me. Don't get me wrong, but just like you're saying, when people bring their problems to you, you feel obligated to help at some level, So like the trust is not backwards for me.
Interesting. Well, it's funny.
He's like, you're fucking nuts. No, I'm just kidding.
No, not at all.
I'm totally joking.
I was thinking while you were talking that as part of our training, when we're in, between medical school and when we're sort of fully practicing, we're in residency, which is 4 years in psychiatry. And there's often a lot of encouragement for us to participate in our own therapy. And even once we're practicing psychiatrists, still there's thought that we benefit. So just not obviously we were talking about it was like a two-way street, and you're almost serving as your friend's therapist. But my point just being that like we all can benefit, and like nobody has got it all figured out. And the person coming to you with problems one time may be the person that actually has good solutions the next time. But yeah, it's a tough dynamic.
That's fair. I've never thought of it that. Like, yep, they needed my help on this little tidbit, but they might be ahead on this part.
Sometimes,
But in my mind, it
sometimes I
just
have
made it seem
clients.
inaccessible.
Sometimes I have clients that'll come to me with questions that are way outside of my realm, but I'll be like, hey, check out this doctor on YouTube. Start following. I'll be like, have you heard of the Enneagram? And like I'll give them the tools that I use for understanding, but like most of those things are so broad, you can just kind of like jump down the rabbit hole that pertains to the problem that you're having. And instead of giving them wrong advice, I can give them the resource to find it. Like sometimes I feel like that's really helpful for a lot of my clients, is just like, I don't have the answer for you, but check this out.
Just like we were talking about my kid earlier, and we were talking about how I'm very direct. And I still feel like even in adult communication, if somebody is trusting you enough to ask you a question,
Mhm.
regardless of what that question is, whether it's mental health, how do you work the copy machine, I think my starter's out, whatever that question is, they're relying on you because they have some sort of trust and believe you have a skill set or a knowledge base, right? So just like the I feel like I am letting somebody down if I don't have the answer. So then if you come to me and you're like, hey, what's the timing of this motor? I don't know that stuff, but you think I do. So let's figure it out together. Like now I want to either show you the steps to get there, like you're saying, show them the book,
Mhm.
or like, let's look that up man. Let's get the answers. So it's, I don't know. Like that's weird.
One time I had this client come in and I know her well enough that I could like dive a little further than I do with all of my clients. But like she came in and her energy was just off and she was talking about her partner like less warmly than she usually does. And you
How are
know,
they?
I know her
Fine.
I know, I know her family well enough to like just poke and prod a little bit, and as she's telling me all the things that are happening, she was telling me that, she thinks that they're splitting up and this and that, and she doesn't know if this is anything they can get past. So throughout our session, and I've worked on her for like 10 hours that day. So when I say session, we had the entire day together, but towards the end of the night, it was like, well, all of these problems are real, but not one of them on their own is that big of a deal. And like, once I started breaking down all the things that she had told me and be like, well, you told me about this, this, and this. So that's like 4 things that are going on at the same time where like any one isn't that big of a deal. So look at it like that, where like, he's not your enemy. This all just piled on you guys all at the same time. Like,
Right.
it's not anything that either of you could help. And you're both just kind of lashing out because you don't have anybody to talk to. Long story short, they were back together by the end of the night. Aw, yeah. Like, and it was just like hearing her words, like just letting her vent to me and then just like repeating back with an outsider looking in, just repeating back her own stories that she had shared and being like,
So what I'm hearing you say is
"What I'm
that
hearing
was
you
my
say
therapist's most
is-"
powerful line. What
Mhm.
I'm hearing you say is how I'm interpreting that ramble you just went on is blah 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 blah. And you're like, oh, you just broke down a whirlwind of emotions to 2 sentences and made it feel like you ever heard the term
When you
you ever
tell a
heard the term
long
break it down,
drawn-out-
Barney?
Have you
You know what I mean by that?
have
Like
you ever heard like told a long drawn out story and then like, so what you're saying is your feelings got hurt? Yeah, they
Fuck
did
yeah.
a little bit.
I'm
And
just sad. Yeah, yeah, yep. It's somebody just to kind of synopsis your rambling.
but sometimes you just need somebody to like hear your words and validate your feelings too. Cause like you can have them and know that like you can't do anything about them. But sometimes just having somebody to simply say, like, it's okay to feel that way. Like
Right.
that's a
No,
valid
that's a
feeling.
normal response to what's happening in your life.
Yeah, like this is called a feeling.
You're allowed. My favorite was you're allowed to be sad.
Mhm.
That You're allowed
You
to
don't.
have
You don't
this feeling.
have to be upset that you're upset. That one was tough for me. So it's like, no, like I got shit to do, like
No, you
I don't
gotta
have time to
this
be sad.
feeling. You gotta
Nope.
have this feeling now or it's gonna explode
Nope,
later.
do it now.
Gotta
do it,
feel
do
it.
Right, and there's a way of like looking at feelings, like we ascribe certain things like happy as a good feeling, sad as a bad feeling. But if you look at feelings sort of neutrally and like they're trying to signal something to you, whatever that is, they're sort of your body's and brain's way of trying to bring something to your consciousness, communicating something. And so if you take that more of that neutral observer approach, like, well, what is it? What is this emotion communicating to me? Then that's a way that you can get control over it. And not, I mean, you can't, to some degree, you can't control your emotions, but you can absolutely control how you respond to your emotions.
That's
Mhm.
the lesson I'm trying to teach
That's
the
one of the
youngin'
things.
right now.
One of the things I'm learning, like from like as I dive deeper, like into the Enneagram and like different personality types, is it helps me to understand like if somebody behaves this way, this is probably the motivation for that behavior, and that motivation
I've
has
always
nothing to
wanted to
do
do
with
that.
me.
Right. I've always wanted to do that.
To be able to just like wrap your head around why they behaved in such a way and then adjust accordingly, or be open-minded to consider a few different ways or a few different possibilities, just to not take things so personally. Because you know how sometimes it's somebody else's behavior that'll just ruin your whole day or week, where like in reality, did the way they behave even have anything to do with me?
It was your response to their
Mhm. Like they might have just gone on about their day and didn't even realize they stepped on your toe. Like,
yeet.
I think most of us are honestly fundamentally good. Not everybody. I mean, there are some people that are just, not good people, but most human beings, I think, are good and mostly well intentioned. And if people do something that pisses you off, often it's not because they're trying to piss you off. They're doing their best. They're not,
Well, one of the things I'm starting to understand is sometimes when people act that way, they're acting that way because it's a defense mechanism, because they have some kind of trauma and they are snappy, just like a dog that's mistreated. They get snappy and they
Yep.
behave unpredictably. So sometimes when you can like when you dive deep enough down the intentions rabbit hole, like, but why were they acting like an a-hole? And then instead
Right.
of hating them, you just want to be like, let me just hug your inner child because they're not the a-hole.
As long as you're granted that opportunity.
I don't think I'm gonna go around hugging anybody's inner child anytime soon.
I know, but you my thing is having a volatile life, we'll say, it makes you realize that everybody's going through something. There's some level of shit in everybody's day.
Mhm.
And remembering how I responded in a similar situation humanizes a lot of people with me. And it made it a lot easier to be like, oh, you're not mad at me, baby. You're just mad. It's okay. Do you need some Chucky milk? Okay.
I do have to say, to jump a little bit more down the tattoo rabbit hole, one of the things that like collecting heavily like this, like on my chest piece and my back piece in particular, not so much my leg, not so much my hands, because those are like superficial areas, but your core, it rocks you more. But the level of like fortitude that I gained, the level of like, if I can sit through this, if I can tolerate this, if I can handle what I'm handling now, if I
If I
can
can disassociate
make
this
myself
hard.
do this and do this for hours and hours and hours, it makes other things just like, well, let's do it. Like
Yep.
if it's gonna hurt, let's just do it, get it out of the way. If it's gonna break my back, let's just do it and get it out of the way. If it's
Yep.
gonna, like, whatever the thing is that you don't want to do, like, it's so easy when I know I've sat through like literal hours and
My
hours
soul
of
has
torture.
left my
Yeah,
body. I
It
will
just
be
makes, I don't know, it just makes even the worst situations in life seem, I don't want to say insignificant. I don't want to trivialize, but it's just like, it's
manageable.
almost, yeah, it's almost like this sense of like, well, I've already gone through this, that, and the other, so I can
It's-
get through this as well.
It's the glass jaw theory. Okay, so like once you've been hit in the face, you're not afraid to get hit in the face, right? So once you realize that you're not going to break and shatter and crumble, you're a lot more likely to stand up and take that thing. So guys that have never been hit in the face, you can sell them. You can see it from across the room. They're like, guys that have been hit in the face before will lead with their chin because they know they'll make it through. And it's a different mindset. I'm not saying either is right or either is wrong, but like,
Yeah.
it's the exact same thought process. When you know you'll make it through something, people that have gone skydiving, people that have cliff jumped, people that have bungee jumped, people that have gone race car
I've
driving,
made it through
and,
worse.
crazy situations. They're like, oh, this is manageable.
Mhm.
Right,
Get it.
Because what you're talking about really in a sense is fear, right? So
Yep.
and fear usually signals that there's a threat. And like if you're talking about like physical pain, that's about the most acute threat to your body. The signals that your body is sending, like this is bad, this could, because pain is indicating like this could kill you, like right in a second. And so like you're saying, when you make it through that, it's so empowering because you now know that that threat isn't this like life or death threat that your brain was initially telling you that it was. It's something that you can conquer, and so if you can conquer that, you can conquer a lot of other things too.
It's given me a sense of calm when I've seen like less it makes me less panicked when somebody's like, oh well, I fainted. Oh, you'll be fine. Like, just here's some sugar, put your feet up. Like, I've seen this a million times. So like it's one of those like once you know what your body's capable of, even if there's like a martial arts and doing jujitsu and stuff like that, people would freak out the first time they got knocked out. And we're all just laughing. Like, oh, be here a couple years. It's like
It's your first concussion, it'll be okay.
You learned to tap earlier. It's almost like you figure it out faster. So it's a weird crossover in my mind.
You want to make us another one of these things?
I can absolutely. I can absolutely.
do you all feel that like pain creams, numbing creams, like, I don't know if you've talked about this previously, so I apologize if it's a
Oh,
past.
we jump back on topics as often as we can, you know, anybody could pull a piece of information that's helpful from us anytime.
Yeah.
Well, I was curious, like, what your all's thoughts are on those numbing products, and Fawn, like you, for both as a collector and a tattooer, I'm just like,
So I personally won't use a numbing product unless I've actually used it and experienced it on myself. But the way that I like to use them, I like to save them for the most painful areas. And I've been
Gotcha.
pretty heavily tattooed, and I was heavily tattooed in areas with and without it. Like my armpits, for instance, we experimented. We did Zenza on one side, which is my preferred numbing cream. I really, really like that one a lot. And then we used the Bio Evolve, the paste that's like the custom compound from Canada, that stuff. They worked about the same. The Zenza is just easier to reapply. But for me, like mentally, if I'm starting a session with it, like myself, when I'm getting tattooed, I think of it as just kind of like a head start. I think of it as like, this is going to give me a little bit of time at the beginning before my pain clock starts.
Yep.
Like I still want to get like 5 or 6 hours after it wears off. You know what I mean? I just feel like if I use it at the beginning, I can extend my stamina. I don't go into the tattoo session thinking it's going to be a pain-free session. I think of it as this is going to be the rolling start into.
There's a
So-
misconception of pain-free when you say numb.
Yeah. So
Because you go
so
to the
for me-
dentist and you don't feel it at all. Whereas this is your skin is being taken away, for lack of a better description, as this is happening. The thing that you're making numb is what you're opening up.
Yep.
So like it's only a head start. And I think you shouldn't be able to use numbing cream on your first tattoo. I think that if you're getting something that you're saying it's not one of the spicier areas, in your
the armpits, this little area right here, that
Yeah,
little solar
you get
plexus
solar
area,
plexus and ribs. And,
nippies. I mean, I'm not even gonna say the ribs are worth it. I think you just kind of got to relax into your ribs and take it. But like these little bendy areas here, I only used it, I think, on one of the last sessions on my knee. We got through most of my leg without it before Adam was like, "Hey, we have this stuff we could try."
Thanks.
Thanks, Adam. For 4 years of torture without it,
Right.
buddy.
Um,
But I'm glad we did it that way. I'm glad I got through the majority of my leg, my ankle, like all those really painful, spicy sessions. Like we were down to like the final layer and the final pass in areas before he was like, "You want to give this a try?" So, I mean, I know what I can sit through without it.
right.
But
I don't
on
want
my
to build a
clients,
false
like,
conception on an early collector. So if you come in for your bicep tattoo numb and you are now in love with tattooing because it was a simple, easy, breeze-free process, and my arm was numb the whole time because it's a smaller tattoo. Now you've got this misconception of what a large collection takes to get.
mhm.
So your next one, you go in and you're like, shit, the last one was a breeze. Let's do full bicep, right?
I'm gonna put you on blast.
And halfway through that,
We
your numbing cream wears off, and you're like, you ever see the kid getting tattooed that just starts yelling at the guy?
use- yeah,
Fucking hurts.
those old waffle pone
Yeah,
videos.
yeah. It's like super, super old, man.
So we used numbing cream on your noggin, but like even like as quickly and strategically as I work with it, we get one pass. Once that skin's open up, it's back to normal. But
Yep.
it gives us that initial like breaking of the skin without having that like traumatic
Yep.
feel. It just is like
you're
a
looking-
rolling start to ease into it.
You said it right. If you're looking at it as a head start and not as a cure-all, it's amazing. It's amazing. If you're looking at it as a closer, it's amazing. If you're relying on the product to make it through the tattoo, you're probably
Working uphill, you're going to make your artist spend a lot of wasted time just finagling that product around.
if you
I
would
call it
just get
marinating.
if you would just get used to the process earlier, you would learn how to handle the pain
Mhm.
earlier. And I don't, coming
I'm
out of the
worried
gate
about my belly.
handicapped makes,
My
You'll be
belly's
fine.
not tattooed yet,
You'll
and
be
I
fine.
feel like it's gonna suck.
You'll
Or
be fine.
how's the belly compared to the back?
The belly is awful.
Thanks. See, I knew it would be.
Yeah,
trying to
it's,
pump her up there, bud.
yeah, I mean, I'm just being honest, like, there's no point in BSing around it.
I didn't think mine was that bad, but again, every single person is different. Everybody's pain level and pain acceptance is different. It's not a judgment or any, like, I probably think somewhere that you thought was easy breezy, lemon squeezy was murder. Everybody's different. It has a lot to do with your mind frame that day and what you had for lunch, you know, like.
I'm amazed at how many people say the butt is bad, because I've had three or four different people tattoo my butt, and I thought there was like other than like the
Mm-hmm. You know,
upper
that spot.
area, yeah, that spot's
That spot and
Yeah, the-
underneath. Mm-hmm.
That
I didn't-
cheek to leg spot where they gotta squish up to get it. Don't.
I didn't think that was that bad either, honestly.
I
It was,
didn't
I think
the
the heel
under
on
cheeky
that was the
bad.
worst.
yes, yeah, healing was rough.
That was itchy. Itchy.
Just a lot of skin contact. So I'm glad I got my my fupa done first. What was it, fupa?
My
See, I didn't think stomach was horrible, but again, I'm a little more padded than the average human being. So I didn't think it was that bad. I've heard the same thing about hands.
To be fair,
lot of
though,
people
you
are
got
like-
a huge rib tattoo and just pounded that sucker out.
Yeah, that's fair.
So after that is probably a little downhill.
Exactly. Experience some trauma shit right up front. Everything else is easy after that. Don't go in numb for your first tattoo. But like I thought hands were super simple. I've had a lot of people be like, oh, my hand was so rough, but I mean, I got a little bit of meat on my hand, so it's not that same grind across
Ultra
your
bruisey.
your bones there. It's I got a little pad there. I got bear paws. So my hand tattoo experience is completely different than somebody that comes in that
Mm.
plays violin for a living and has super long
You
fingers.
know,
and bony
I can't
hands.
even remember most of my hands, but I do remember the webbing between my fingers. That is what I remember the most. This pinky knuckle edge hand was spicy hot fire.
I remember looking at Rich and just going, it stops there, bud. Just
That's the end.
that's the line. No. But I want it.
It stops
That
here.
is cool enough.
What feet? Were your feet as, what did you think?
So I feel like my feet were hot getting them done. One foot always healed fine. The other one swells really bad. And I don't know the difference between the two or if it was just the artist that did the one, but the one swelled really bad. I feel like the ankles are the most exhausting part. Now my feet don't come down onto my toes. They're just the tops of my feet, but the ankle, like there are parts of it where it's almost just like a dull pain at the time, but it's like just exhausting at the end of the day.
See, I didn't think feet were that bad. Kneecap was murder,
Kneecap's pretty brutal.
but like feet wasn't. Front of my shin, I remember being really brutal.
See, I didn't think my shin was that bad. I thought it would be. What about your knee ditch? Did you think your knee ditch was fine or not bad at all?
I haven't done either.
Was it-
It was fine.
See, I got blank space there that she keeps wanting to creep into.
I didn't think it was that bad. Honestly, it's not one of the. I asked about feet because if everywhere else felt anywhere close to as bad as my feet felt, and it's 3 different people have tattooed my feet, so it's not like it's some heavy-handed person or something.
Right.
And if everywhere else felt like that, there's no way I would have a bodysuit. There's just no way. It was every session was hell. I mean, yeah.
You know what I
I
found
say that to
funny
lots of people.
is as bad as some areas on the back are, you'd get to an area where like, my back's got large swatches of color, but like there would be like an excruciating spot and then like an inch over it'd be like slightly less excruciating, but still like sickeningly excruciating. And I'd find relief. And the
And
level
less
of
painful.
excruciating. Yeah, like this is still god awful, but thank God it's not as bad as it was a minute ago. And then I'd go back into that gratitude mindset. But like, all right, now I can catch my breath. I can catch my breath. Nope, not anymore.
My favorite are people are like, oh my goodness, doesn't that hurt? And I'm like, I promise you, if it hurt that bad, I wouldn't have this many, because like I'm soft. Let me tell you, if it hurt that bad, I would not be this covered. I promise
I
you.
usually tell my clients, even in like the most painful areas, there are exceptions, like the areas of the butt we were talking about. These little pancakes right between your like pec and bicep
Mhm.
and armpit area, that
little
little
flap.
pancake, and on the back, that same little flappy. No fun. But like for the most part, while you're being tattooed, you should be able to carry on conversation. If it's so painful that you can't take a deep breath and carry on a little bit of conversation or pay attention to a TV show, or
Yeah.
I just feel like, yes,
whole
it's
set shouldn't be
painful,
murder.
but like in reality, you should still be able to carry on conversation. I feel like that's also a red flag if your artist is doing something like heinously wrong. Like if you're not being dramatic and it really feels like you're being cut, that needle might be barbed.
I've stopped and been like, hey man, like I don't know what's up, but this is murder today. I don't know what's going on. And it was not in a very, very spicy spot, right?
Mhm.
I was like, I don't know what's going on, but this fucking sucks. And he was kind of like, haha, yeah, we're getting tattooed today. And I'm like, no, bro, that's not what I'm saying. This is abnormally painful. I've got a few. I know what this hurts.
Swap the needle out and it was fine.
Changed the needle and it ran like butter. Everything was fine from then on.
Nice.
So it was one of those, like, as a collector, it's just like being a patient advocate. You got to stand up for your shit. Like you
Mhm.
got to say, no, this isn't right. I'm not right. Things aren't correct.
Mhm.
And if anybody gives you guff for doing that, tell them to fuck off and get out of your chair and leave. There's a million tattoo artists. I don't care where you live. There's 13 in your hometown. You can Google right now.
You can Google.
Google
Google.
them. Are we allowed to say that on this podcast?
Google?
Google.
Right. How many times have you watched Hot Tub Time Machine, Kyle?
Never.
You've seen it? Oh, hallelujah. He's actually
Did you
seen
just
a
say
movie
you've
that we've
seen a
watched
film?
before.
Oh.
This is fantastic.
We often razz Kyle for not seeing things that are like cult classics. Like I made him come to the house and watch Pulp Fiction.
Not Pulp
Oh
Fiction.
no, it was Point Break.
Point
Excuse
Break.
me. The other one.
Poor Kyle. He's just a generation behind us, Ben. He can't help it.
I saw a great Pulp Fiction tattoo actually today. Dave Paolo did. I don't know if you're familiar with him, but he did a great one. Samuel L. Jackson. Say what again? You know.
Say what? One more motherfucker. Yeah,
Oh,
that's a good one.
Sammy J.
That's a good one. I don't have any pop culture tattoos. Oh, well, I got one cartoon.
My first tattoo was an Andy Warhol tattoo. So that's like fine art and pop culture and art history.
Let me slay a few categories at once.
Kind of wish I would have gotten it bigger now.
My first tattoo was a Japanese character for Cloud.
Cloud. He was gonna add 9, but never got around to it.
No, I did.
Oh, you did.
That totally,
Makes the story better.
totally did. It's like tattoo 3. It's like, so we gonna put some stuff around this, just like floating kanji on my leg. My guy was like, "Yeah, we'll do that."
That's funny.
We all start with a weird one. I don't care what anybody says. No one goes in and gets a home run on your first time.
How was your chest?
How was it?
Yeah. You've
I
had your
don't-
chest worked on several times, right?
Yeah, I thought it was really easy. One of the easier spots that I've had. I mean, there's a fair amount of negative space with like all the geometric shape on my pecs, but my sternum, it's solid color, and which I think is supposedly the worst part. And
Yeah.
I
My
didn't think-
sternum was murder, and I only had like half of it done.
My chest, I mean, obviously there's a lot of like collarbone and sternum as well, but like the nipples, I went ultrasonic. I was like, It was like, could have
Right.
cut glass. It was ultrasonic. And then mine, they're not even that tattooed, but the solar plexus, like right at the bottom of my rib cage.
I see.
I felt like my entire soul was being tattooed through. It like took me into like an instant DMT trip. It was so painful.
That's what-
I'm not saying that being funny. It really took me on like a psychedelic, like a visual, like a euphoric pain.
Your body dumped
Thing,
so
yeah.
much painkiller at once. Your
Yeah,
mind
I've
was
never,
like,
that's the first time it ever clicked with me what like some people who like chase pain and people who like hurt themselves and people who like are into the more extreme like body modifications and things like it clicked what they're
It
chasing.
made
But for me,
sense.
I have to be so far down that pain rabbit hole that that's not even worth it. Like
I'm good.
like it was really cool to experience that, but I don't want to put my body through that again. It was like that was probably my toughest tattoo session, like spiritually, mentally, physically. Like I feel like after the roughest session on my chest, I feel like, and like you were saying, the whole chest isn't that bad, just that roughest area. I feel like I was a totally different person after that. Like, I mean, still me, but like my understanding of everything was a little bit different after that moment.
I've left sessions like that, just and actually specifically that solar plexus as well. Exactly knowing where I am, been to the shop 100 times, around friends, don't remember leaving, don't remember driving home, don't remember, like end up taking the long way because you miss your turn because you're in just this state of like, what just happened to me? Like recovery is not even the right word. It's almost shock. And like,
Have you ever seen Ty McEwen work? You know how he's
Yeah,
very like business, kind of brutal. When you go through that, he and Adam both turn into like these most nurturing,
Yep.
shamanic,
as
like,
they should.
yeah, like I got cold compresses. I got like, I didn't literally get carried, but I was like wobbly, like they needed to help me outside to get fresh air. And it was just, I don't know, like, not that Adam's not compassionate, but like once you've experienced that kind of thing, like, and I've been there when my clients have experienced it, and it's really kind of a powerful thing to go through. It's not just they're on the verge of passing out. It's like we pushed it too far
Right.
and their spirit is different now and
Yep, you are
they need
broken.
to catch their breath.
You are broken.
Yeah.
There's a
There-
big difference.
it's almost like I guess in a way it could be an ego death because you think you're strong and you get slapped by a whole new dimension of reality.
The last layer long session. You know exactly what I'm talking about. You've been there 8 hours, 9 hours. You were done at hour 6.
I think Kyle went through that on his shinny shin with Guy.
And then you're at hour
Yeah,
8
I
and
was
your
broken.
artist is like, I want to do like one more pass. And then they go and open everything back up and the white highlight, if you will. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
I've had those sessions that where I'm just like mentally more than physically. It's not the pain, it's the having to deal with the minor annoyance of the pain. I've been blocking in my mind, I've been compartmentalizing, I've been distracting, and when I run out of those and I've been doing all of that,
Mhm.
it's not that this is unbearable pain.
It's just that you're
My
over it.
mind is done ignoring it. I don't want to ignore it anymore. I don't want to act like it's not happening. I'm over it. Wrap it up.
I feel you. I mean, that's just such a good way of saying it. It's an endurance thing for those
Right.
for those sessions, and it's physically taxing, mentally taxing, and yet draining. So it's all about your tolerance. I mean, your tolerance for sitting through anything that's that hellacious, it's just gonna diminish over time. So yeah.
I had a conversation with a client recently. It was his first tattoo and we were jumping into a sleeve and we're just starting the outer upper arm area. And I jump in and I'm like, "Are you ready?" He's like, "I'm ready." And I do a couple little soft passes. And I was like, "That's it." He's like, "That's it." I was like, "Yep, that's it." He's like, "I could do this all day." I was like, "Now, that is it. but it does get worse as we go. Like it's not physically getting worse. Your tolerance just becomes lower. And
Right.
we got to about hour 3 and he's like, yeah, this isn't as fun as it was. And then when we hit hour 6, as we were getting close to wrapping up, he's like, you're right. It does feel exactly the same, but it hurts more at the same
Your
time.
dopamine dropped, your energy dropped, your sugar dropped, you've sat in a chair, your blood pressure is going crazy. Like
You've
your
just
body's
depleted your body of
going
everything.
through all its things. It's
Well,
panicky.
and
it's-
you've got like the fight or flight thing going
Right.
on the entire time because your body doesn't want to experience pain. Your body is like, get out of this chair, you idiot, run away, punch him in the mouth, run away.
Speaking of all those words, excuse me for just a moment. Think what's happening.
Well, we lost Ben for a minute. He'll be back quick.
All right, cool.
So
The thing I was going to say is just about like the pain thing. To me, the way I've described it to people who haven't either been tattooed or sat for a long session is it's like having an itch that you can't scratch, and like a really bad, like the worst itch you've ever had. And like for a little while, you're like, all right, that's there, that's annoying, but whatever. But like at a certain point, you inevitably crack and you find some way to scratch that itch. But when you're getting tattooed, if you want to finish the session, you can't crack.
mhm. It's a crazy challenge that, we all, those of us that choose to get heavily tattooed for whatever our motivations are, I just feel like there's this whole like gauntlet of accidental gifts and rewards. There's like this tribal quality or this tribal community that we kind of start to fall into where there's like, unspoken communication and, we see one another on the street and there's this like nod of approval of, I see that you've gone through the same things that I have gone through, like beyond what the tattoo is. It's okay. I see you've walked that same walk, I don't know if there's many other things that can cross as many boundaries as tattoos have that like unite us with this huge thing that we have in common. Like once you've gotten your whole chest tattoo or your back tattooed or sleeves or just any long session, you come out of it a little bit different of a person, but also now you're connected to every other person who's sat through those experiences. It's almost like not a tribal thing out of exclusion, but it's a tribal thing of inclusion. Like you've experienced this thing, you've changed your outer form, but as well as that, you change your inner form just because, all of the mental fortitude it takes to achieve these things, the commitment it takes to achieve these things.
Well, yeah, it's a bond, it's like I'm not exactly comparing it to like surviving a trauma or anything, but it's in that realm where, like you think about like that plane that landed on the Hudson River like 15 years ago in New York with, Captain Sully Sullenberger or whatever. Like the 200 people that were on that plane collectively shared what I imagine is a traumatic experience for all of them. And they're the only 200 people in the world that have ever been through anything like that. And it did change their reality. And they have to have a different perspective on what life means and what the world, being in this world, means. And it's the same, I think, what you're saying with tattoos. Like we've all been through this process that's fundamentally changes how we appear, which fundamentally affects how we interact with the world and the world interacts with us. We've also gone through all of that pain. And also, I think something that isn't talked about as much is like just the inconvenience of getting to sessions and planning things out and going through healing. I mean,
We talk about the travel and the heal a lot. Like the way it's almost better to put yourself through 2 days back to back because your body's only going to have to heal once. And you start to like calculate like, okay, so how many days do I need off for recovery? Because it's like, okay, well, let's just stack them back to back. We'll get more done and I'll get one heal and it'll be one trip to see you. And it's I don't know. It's all those other sacrifices that sometimes, there's very few people that talk about those sacrifices anywhere else.
It was kind of the whole point of the show when we started. It was like there's a lot of questions that even as a collector, there's nowhere to find the answers for.
Mhm.
No one told me to eat a full meal. ever. I was 3 limbs on my body deep before somebody was like, "What'd you have for lunch today, bro?" Excuse me. As I scarf down a donut because I can feel my sugar dropping and falling asleep. Well,
Oh,
maybe
I
that's
can't
just
wait
the
to
weed.
scarf one of those.
So I was so like a place to have that talk about it might be more financially advisable and easier on your body to commit to the 2 day. And if you're traveling to see your artist, it might be more sound to get a larger piece and plan for that and make it a more of your destination vacation style planning
Mhm.
as opposed to local collecting. So when you get onto the level when you're traveling to see your artist and you're staying there, that's a level of commitment that I've never had to have. I was very fortunate to have very good local artists and stay in a very small circle. So the people that like, this is what I do. I save my money. I travel to their state. I stay in a hotel. I get tattooed for a couple of days.
Like Jay Grimmy.
Yes, like
That man's so dedicated.
that
I think
style
he
of collector blows my
All
mind.
of his money on tattoos. He has to. I'm sure of it.
I am
he
heavily
loves
tattooed
him so
because I've
much.
been around for a long time, not because I've had a shit ton of money to go or travel or you know what I mean.
Mhm.
Like, so the people that are aggressive about it and have had like this huge collection in a short amount of time, like people like Tony, Whitebeard Tony.
La Fienza.
Yes, thank you.
Oh,
I
yeah.
didn't want to butcher his name. Great dude, love the guy. Got his collection really quick, and the level of commitment it takes to staying in that habit of being tattooed and in the mindset of booking your next appointment while you're there, and
We
it's
should have Tony on again soon. How many awards did he win? Was he at the New England show?
He wasn't, no.
Wonder
Interesting.
where he was.
He was there last year, and so for best overall, and I was relating to you when you were talking about going up on stage essentially naked, because yeah, you got to for best overall. So last year he beat me at New England. I didn't have as much coverage then as I did now. I get my stomach, ribs, and other things done after that. But yeah, he wasn't at this year, so it definitely helped probably me get that one, get that best overall.
that level of commitment blows my mind. Just that fast collector has all high end work, has all travel pieces, has all show stuff. Like
There was a point where I had 3 open projects, and that was too much. That was too much. Like from this point on, like I feel like I only have, I've got my arms. They're not very big compared to my back or leg, or like I feel like my arms are going to be done so fast when I start them. And then I've got my belly, and I've already talked to Mike Cole about doing my belly, so that'll complete my torso. So after my torso's done, I've got like my arms, and then from my knee down, I'm going to keep that open to continue to collect smaller pieces because I don't think I'll be done collecting. So,
Spiratat leg.
well, yeah, basically, I know even once my bodysuit's done, like being a tattooer, I'm going to continue wanting to collect. Like there are going to be like Carrie Barba, for instance. I want Carrie Barba to work on me just because I want her to work on me. Like I
Right.
give her give her my knee, my ankle, whatever part of this leg that's still available, like take as much as you want and then put the little spiratats around it. But there are definitely people that I would love to tattoo me just because of who they are. And I know as I continue to grow as an artist,
I'm trying.
get it? It's okay.
Nope, my fingers are fat.
I know as
Don't
I
fit.
continue to grow as an artist, I'm still going to want those opportunities to have artists I look up to work on me. So
Right.
there's this additional motivation, like as much as I'm motivated now that I've finished the teeth journey to get back into tattooing or collecting tattoos. I feel like it will go fast again. I feel like it went really, really fast. And then after I completed my armpits and back and chest all in a short period of time,
Right.
like I
It-
could
it's-
take my time with the rest.
It's a mindset for me. When I'm getting tattooed, it's easy to keep getting tattooed.
The momentum.
It's we're already doing it. We're already healing. We have all the things. We have all the aftercare. We've got all the products. I'm already at the shop. Just fucking do it. And then you're there, and when you're actually getting tattooed, when you hang out with tattooers all the time, you you don't want to talk about your collection, or you don't want to talk, you know what I mean?
We'd
Like,
say that, and then we'll get like high, and you'll happen to not have a shirt on, and I'll be like, that
let's
space
take
right
them-
there could be. It's the weed every
it's the
time.
weed. But like, so when you're actually talking about planning space, and there's people there that are like, oh yeah, I'd like to do that. And now suddenly you've got a mental commitment to a project. You're like, well, we said we were going to do that. So put it on the books, I guess, when we're done with this. Just like- so it's, I don't know. It's easy to stay in the habit for me. Once I'm taking a break and I've been off the wagon for a while, so to speak. I don't want to say it's hard to
think-
get back into by any
Once we
means.
start
but I'm very
rolling on your
comfortable
leg
now.
again, I feel like once we start rolling on your leg again, it's gonna go quick, because we've like tipped the scale where like it's gonna start feeling like I'm close to wrapping that leg up. You know how sometimes with big projects or big portions of an area, it just feels like you peck away, and you're not getting anywhere, and it's never gonna be finished. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh wow, there's a light at the end of the tunnel.
One day
This
you look
thing's
at it and
gonna
you're
be
like,
done
"Oh,
soon.
okay.
That, and it's also incredible to me, like when you get like that small, like for me, on my torso, my last real empty space was my traps. And the different, I mean, there's such a small, piece of real estate, but the difference in terms of the aesthetic from having them done or from not having them done to having them done was night and day. I mean, it was incredible.
It just kind of buttoned your whole collection up, didn't it?
My torso's got a lot of opportunity still, and it's almost weird looking at blank skin.
Mhm.
Like it's almost like disappointing. I don't want to say this, that's not right, but like it's like, all right, like come on, get it
So
together.
I don't specifically remember the moment, but do you remember the moment where you realized that you were getting a bodysuit? You weren't just getting a sleeve and a back piece and another sleeve. Like, was there a distinctive moment where you're like, oh yeah, this is going to be full coverage? It would be silly not to.
Yeah, there really was. It was probably so by this time I had already gotten some work on my legs. I had gotten a pretty big thigh piece from Mash Cal, and I had gotten some like lower leg pieces from Kelly Doty and Carl Grace.
Would it be cool if we had Kyle pulled up some of your Instagram photos to share?
Yeah, of course, by all
Yeah.
means.
You're gonna pull his Instagram up as we're starting to kind of talk about some of his specific pieces.
So like I had gotten those, and then Timmy B. Oh yeah, there's my legs. Wow, bam, there they are. Yeah, so those are actually, most of the stuff there you see is relatively newer. The front of my legs, Timmy B did a Jason Voorhees on me, and
I think you're wearing the same shoes in that photo as I'm wearing right now.
oh really?
I think
Those
so.
those are my favorite shoes, actually.
Are they burgundy and gray?
They're blue and gray.
Oh,
Blue and
mine,
gray, yeah.
mine are burgundy and gray, but I think
Oh,
they're the
nice.
same.
Yeah,
I love that we're like sweet tattoos, but your shoes,
But your
bruh.
shoes, nice Vans. I like the gray.
Yeah, I was wearing them earlier, actually, before I came on here. Yeah, so you can see the Jason Voorhees there, but like picture my legs with basically almost, well, the Zach De La Rocha Mash Cow piece was there, and then a couple of the things on my lower legs were there, the Carl Grace and Kelly Doty's. So it was when the Jason Voorhees went in, I was like, yeah, there's no way. I mean, at this point, it's gonna look silly for me to have like
We're both leaning forward. When I
Yeah,
could
just
like
bring
move
it
this
towards us.
so we could actually see. Work smarter, not harder.
Yeah, so I think it was really at that point. Once I decided to go full leg sleeves, I figured I would probably do my arm, my chest fit in there somewhere. I wasn't sure about my stomach, just because, like some of the body image weight issues I had had before and whatever. But once like and I wasn't sure about my ribs either, because I had heard they were so horrific, and I was like, could I possibly do this? So I actually went all out when I did my first ribs. I did 3 straight days with Evan Olin at the Baltimore Tattoo Convention
Nice.
last year. Yeah, there you go. That's it. So I like.
Oh man, Evan's
big-
work so nice.
Yeah, it's definitely worth it. It's healed. Actually, most of my work is healed really phenomenally.
Looks really good.
Thanks. Yeah, it's one of my favorites. So I think probably at that time, I was like, well, my stomach, my other ribs, my armpits, like, yeah, I just got to do it. So I'd say it
Love
happened
it.
probably like in 3 stages. The first was the sleeve in the back. The second was once I got enough on my legs, and the third was once I pulled the trigger on that first rib piece.
And you've got your whole torso's covered now, right? Both
It is.
legs, both arms. Yeah, you're really like literally head to toe.
Yeah, the only spots that I have left are I got to finish a little bit on my right outer sleeve, which I'm doing next month.
I'd
And-
love to talk about your back.
Oh, sure. Yeah. That's Tyler Malik. So that's the whole evolution of consciousness thing that I was talking about earlier, just like weird thoughts I've had over time. And thankfully, I was able to take my wacky ideas to Tyler. I mean, this is going back years now, and basically
Mhm.
just say, hey, these are the crazy things I'm thinking about. Can we turn this into some, Mondo space galaxy piece?
Yeah, I've
Love
looked
it.
up to his space work for years.
Love it.
Love the stuff he pulls off.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible. And the eye at the top of my back is actually a silhouette of my daughter when she was 2, looking into the eye.
And the reflection. Oh, that's awesome.
That's nuts.
I was just having a conversation with our coworker Maddie. She joined us a couple of weeks ago. And we were talking about like the reflection in eyes, and it was like, well, if you can put a whole nother scene in there, why wouldn't you?
Yep. Yeah.
It's like it draws you into like a whole nother dimension of the piece.
I love the removing the face.
Yeah. Yeah. That was like,
The space down here at the bottom, like string of smoke creating everything. What?
yeah. So the cool thing about this picture, this was taken last summer, and this was at a convention actually. So, at the time, this piece is 6 years old, I think.
Nice.
So,
We were talking earlier today about how that black behind blue just holds
Yeah,
so
you
well.
just gotta take the black and make it black. That's
Yep.
the trick to making like these space tattoos. Like you gotta just know where the black needs to be black, and then pull the colors all the way through the spectrum. Like you want to go like the
Amazing.
brightest, most intense next to that black, and it so much
Contrast.
fun. Love it.
It's amazing. That's really, really, really well done.
yeah, Tyler's the man. I mean, he's the guy that, for better or for worse, get me started on all of this.
Right. Keep scrolling, Kyle.
Our
Yeah.
intern fell asleep.
Oh, no
There he
worries.
is.
Oh, there's my Tom Strong.
Oh,
Yeah.
you've got some Tom work. I need to get a Tom Strong piece for sure. I've got a small hoard of his original artworks up in my tattoo space.
Oh, I know. who he
Yeah,
is.
yeah, all my creepy deer.
Yeah. Where on your body is that?
It's my kneecap.
Nice.
That's
Oh,
wonderful.
that's a good placement for that too. Its mouth opens when you bend, doesn't it?
nice job.
Yeah.
John.
It's cool. Both my knees. So Paul Booth did my other knee.
Nice.
I thought that was Paul's.
Yeah. And so like the two of them together are just so badass because they both have that effect of like moving with my body, like their
Right.
mouth opening or their faces. Yeah, that one. Faces distorting. It's really cool.
So good. Paul Booth did a guest spot here at Red Tree after Hell City last year. It was pretty cool to just stand around and
Absorb.
Yeah, just
Yeah.
watch him work. I remember the first year I met Paul. I can't remember how many years ago it was now. You know, I smoke a lot of weed. It's hard to remember things like that.
Specifics.
But I had already left and I was going to stay with a homie because I had to be back at the show early because we were doing the news thing the next morning at
Yeah,
6 a.m.
yeah.
So I was like, I was going to go catch a nap. Nope. But I get a text that somebody needed materials and I was like, I'll be right there.
Yep.
And so since we saw 420, like we got introduced over
Right.
420.
Same. That's how I met him. He was in Columbus and somebody was like, Paul needs to get high. I was like,
I'll be
yeah, I'm
right
on my
there.
way.
I'll be right there.
Let's do this. What's up, friend? I have materials. You're in
Mhm.
need of materials. Let's hang out.
Yeah.
That's nuts.
Yeah, he did that filler on my ankle. He actually did at the New England convention last week. He did a little bit more filler on my toes
Oh,
and
man.
her foot, which even Paul, like the master of darkness or whatever title you want to give him, even he apologized to me while he was doing. He's like, "Sorry, man, I really got to pack this in there," and he's like, "I'm going pretty hard." So thankfully, he's extremely fast. Like he did
Mhm.
my whole knee, inner and outer thigh in 6 hours. Um, what you see right there, he probably did in, I don't know, maybe 30 or 40 minutes.
Nice.
Wow.
All right, Paul.
Efficient.
Yeah, so you might get murdered, but it'll go quick.
Here's the,
Put-
this is the mash cow one.
Yeah, mash cow. Yep. Yeah, this is cool. I got in with him, like, I mean, he's like exploded like bonkers the last, I don't know, year and a half or so.
I really enjoy, I shouldn't say this, but I really enjoy the knockoffs. I really do. Cause like there are some very specific tricks that he uses. And like, if you don't
You have to
know
explain
those
that to me.
tricks, yeah, if you don't know those tricks, you're
Would-
not going to be able to pull this off. Okay. Like for instance, look at that
What do you mean by
black,
knockoffs?
like other people trying to tattoo like this,
Like that,
or
okay.
like either ripping off his actual tattoos or trying to do the same exact same thing, but they don't know the tricks.
So you're saying this is the people everybody's trying to knock off right now?
Yeah.
I'm catching up.
Yep.
I didn't know what you meant by that. I was like, wait, which way does that go? Like,
Yeah. No. Like a lot of people are trying to make tattoos that look exactly like this, but you can always tell when they like miss the mark just a little bit. Like there's some certain specific tricks where
that's insane.
you got to know them. I want to like pinch in and zoom in on
Okay.
this. Like, look at all the detail at the front end of that car.
Well, I'm looking at saturation of light from the top down. That play of light always plays a big
Look at that.
hit or
look at
miss.
that
for me.
flames.
Yeah,
Look.
that's insane. Put the black where the black needs to go.
Yeah, and this 3 years old now, and the flames
insane.
still look like that. I mean, they really do.
Well,
The-
you can still see the detail of the face of the monk because of the way it's done. Like it's done simple enough that it's going to hold, but still show the image. Like that's brilliant.
He's phenomenal. The Mash Cow bootlegs are hilarious, and his whole approach to them. I was at the Golden State Convention last year, and his booth actually, it had his name on it, and it had all of the terribly done knockoffs of his work.
That's wonderful.
And there's like the balls that you have to be like, yep, I'm gonna put my name to all of the terrible knockoff work. Like, I mean, I just thought it was hilarious. And
Those who know, and those who
Yep.
know is who he wants to deal with. So I love it.
Oh, this is super rad.
this might be my favorite piece on me.
You have got a wonderful collection.
Yeah.
Oh, thanks.
That little silhouette up at the top, all the way down to the exploding. Mind blown.
I like seeing classic images. Like everybody loves skull tattoos, but that
Exploding
is
skull
a
nebula, though?
different mindset and different approach to a badass jumbo skull. Like
How did the consultation for this go? Were you like, okay, hear me out.
yeah,
I want you to take this gruesome, gnarly skull. All right. You following? I want you to make it into an exploding nebula. But I also want it to look peaceful and beautiful and calm all at the same time.
So Dimitri Vision did this. To me, he's one of the most underrated artists around. He's mind blowing, no pun intended. But the consultation. So like I travel a lot. Like he's in Denver, I'm in Maine, so I had to fly out a couple times for this. And what I said to him, actually, I showed him pictures of my back, pictures of the Evan Olin piece on my ribs, my chest. Obviously said, look, I'm going for a galaxy space theme, and what I would like is an exploding skull, a color realism exploding skull in space that could connect to the other pieces I have around, and just let him do his thing.
he understood the assignment. That's for sure.
He did. I mean, when I came in and I saw that reference, I was like, dude, you like this is exactly what I mean, it's better than I wanted, right? Like I don't have an artist's brain, but like just like all of the detail he gets with like the little fragments of the skull and the explosion itself and then it morphing into the galaxy and the sort of the nebula. Yeah, it's crazy.
Amazing. Well, you hit the nail on the head in the way that you approach the artist, and we talk about that a lot on the show. That um, giving your artist the freedom to do the reason you're coming to them for.
Mhm.
So saying yes, I want an exploding skull. Let me give you some subject matter and a place to start. But then giving them the freedom to do what you came to them to do is where a lot of people lack. A lot of people try to come into the shop and go, I want pink smoke in his mouth and red off on once instead of, and then you're forcing creativity as opposed to letting the artist be excited to build their own thing.
Yeah,
And-
sometimes I have consultations with people and they've got like such a firm idea and it just isn't clicking. It's not making sense.
Right.
So it's almost like sometimes I have to have those consultations backwards. It's almost like, tell me the story behind this. Why is this what you want? And then they'll tell me the story of why they want this thing that's kind of out of my wheelhouse. And I'll be like, oh, that's what this represents. Well, what if we told the same exact story this way? And like sometimes just,
understanding
Hmm.
why.
yeah, like
Yeah.
not everybody works in a graphic way. Not everybody's brain can build pictures in a way that are going to make sense
Or
to
has
the
the
viewer
vocabulary to do so.
or that.
And I
It's
would
really
rather
hard to explain in words, all kinds of stuff.
I would rather my artist be like excited to do something that they're pumped on because I get to do Galaxy, yay, or I get to make it into this without having that very specific instruction.
Kyle
I'd rather
changed the
them be
picture on
excited.
us.
I know he did. I was just finishing my
Just
sentence.
making eye contact with you and didn't even realize.
Yeah, I saw it.
Look at this gnarly thing.
So where on the body is that?
That's in my kind of upper thigh groin area. So Dimitri, I had this awkward space and we had some extra time after that last rib session. And
Just a little
Oh, I
jammer.
see where it connects there.
Yep.
yeah,
Man.
he was like, we have this space. He had this thing he'd been wanting to tattoo for years. And I was like, cool, let's do it. And the crazy thing to me is his reference was a black and white like outline drawing and he stenciled it on and he did all of the color. Like he just did that as he tattooed. Like there was
Mhm.
no
Love it.
reference or anything. So, I mean, obviously I trusted him because I saw what he did for my ribs and I figured I'd be good to go, but still, I think it's pretty cool.
Yep,
So
that's gnarly.
hear me out and tell me if this makes sense, Fawn. So the only way I know how to describe it is backwards, but hear me out. So I once
I'm listening.
I went to a guy to design a wardrobe. Like I needed to start wearing professional clothes. It wasn't something that I had ever done. I needed a week's worth of professional garments, jackets, the whole nine, right?
Okay.
So I go in and I'm like, bud, I'm gonna jack this up. I'm gonna start wearing the wrong pants with the wrong jacket, with the wrong suit. Like you're cultivating stuff that is what I'm never gonna remember how this all goes together when I leave. He's like, so what I'm doing is putting everything inside the same wheelhouse. So that shirt goes with all these pants. That jacket goes with all these pants. That shirt goes with all these pants. Do tattooers leave their ink in wheels, for lack of a better term, in selections of I know that if I only use if I use this palette, it's not going to look bad?
I think
Does
that's
that
kind
make
of like a
sense at
style
all?
thing. Like I definitely have certain colors that I lean to.
Like
You
as long
know?
as I buy this palette of colors, all my tattoos are going to match. I'm not going to have
Some
any.
artists specifically work like that. Like they'll work with a very limited palette and you'll see only that palette in all of their work.
Now, I don't say you have to have one, but do you like just like they build ink packs, right? You buy the zombie ink pack that I was gifted.
Not all artists have hundreds of colors.
See, I know that you're special.
I
and
mean,
that's
I'm
why
not
I
saying
was-
I'm special,
I
but
didn't
not
mean
all
it like that,
artists
but
have.
I know that your color selection in comparison to most people is large, and as a tattooer, I know why you do that because of how you build everything.
Too many colors.
No, it's beautiful. So on somebody that doesn't work in the full color spectrum like you do they base their purchases on like all this shit matches just like I would do my whole wardrobe suits?
So for instance, the gray is the neutral. In this case, the purple is it's like a warm neutral. So we've got the gray and the purple is our warm neutral. The pink is a standalone highlight color. But if we look at the periwinkle at the top and the light blue at the bottom, those are the perfect complements of the bright orange and the darker orange behind it. So it's equal and opposite. And then he's got this flash of this fiery orange over here
So
that makes it like loops your eye back around and up to the top. See how like there's a color story to it? It's really only the orange and the blues that are competing with one another, but they're going to bring your eye all the way to the top and back down. And then bringing this pink up here into that like smoke that leads up into the skull. That's
he-
going to
he does
bring
it
your
with the-
eye all the way up.
He does
to
it with the
next piece.
orange to the red to pull everything
Yep.
up into
Yep. The orange is our motion color that's going to draw our eye back up.
crazy tricks that
Mhm.
simple folk would never think about.
But like in this case, like the purple is warm, but the purple and the gray are neutral. The story that your eye follows is the blue and the orange playing off of each other.
Beautiful.
So yes and no. Sometimes the colors can go together and sometimes they can't. But that's a whole thing called color theory. And that goes along with like music theory and harmonies. Like there's visual harmonies, just as there are like harmonic sounds and
Yeah.
combinations of sounds. There are visually harmonic colors.
Concur.
We can jump down that rabbit hole
That's
a
why
lot.
it's
It's all wavelengths.
all just
It's all wavelengths. It's all energy, Ben.
You know,
It's all energy.
I watched the story bots the other day about why the sky is blue and learned all about color wavelengths. Thank you.
All
I'm
right.
up to date.
You've had your talk with Roy G. Biv.
Yeah. Broke it down. Ooh. Cal tried to be sneaky that time. I saw him coming.
Got him.
That's a sneaky little pop-up. I love the light play from that.
That red glow.
Yes.
Yeah, this is my horror movie character leg, which was pretty special to me. I mean, I'm a kid of the 80s and grew up with all those
Mhm.
iconic characters and really wanted to devote a large piece of real estate to horror characters. So I have characters represented from every decade I've been alive, the 80s through, the 2020s. And some really well-known ones and some lesser known ones, but this is like a super awkward space on my inner thigh. On the back side of my thighs, Nico Hurtado did the Art the Clown from Terrifier.
Mhm.
And then on the inner thigh knee area, Kelly also did Pennywise. So it's actually a fairly small space, and the fact that she could pull, because the background from behind the Terrifier was really just kind of a plain green. So she kind of gave it some texture to, make it look like that shattered piece of wood door. And that's one of the amazing things I think about Kelly. She's so creative in the way, like she doesn't just have space, have no purpose. Like she finds a way to make it have a purpose, which I think is so cool.
Fonz talked about this, and I've always started to notice and appreciate when other tattooers let tattooers link into their stuff. So allowing that fade out or that wash out or that soft edges,
Mhm.
so somebody else can come in and work with that next space instead of just arbitrarily laying down color on big swatches of open real estate.
Yeah. I definitely enjoy like leaving in an area for it to tie into.
Right.
But this was a really,
That's
it
next
really
level.
was a creative way
That's
to
next
like,
level.
build that barrier from one tattoo to the other, but it didn't. It's like you literally can't tell where one tattoo stops and the other starts, and that's
Right.
pretty cool. I think when you're going for full coverage like this, I think that's a really cool thing for artists to be mindful of.
Especially when you're collecting from that many different artists, like for everyone to be mindful of that is kudos to the community.
Yeah, I mean, I have that horror character leg has, I think, 10 artists that worked on it and
Wow.
different styles, right? Like you get the real, so like the back of my thigh on my right leg. So you get the Nico, Art the Clown, and you've got Gabriel from Malignant, which Paul Acker did. So like you get your realism guys, but then you've got like the new school illustrative, like the Tom Strom and the Kellys and the Timmy B's, Lindsay Baker, so Sean Gardner. Um, One of the things I'm not sure if you guys have talked about, but something as a collector that I think is tricky sometimes is like finding people to do the awkward spaces. So, like you see my knee
Yep.
dip right there, and like my like up lower butt cheek, upper thigh, like you see that gory, torn, ripped skin stuff. So
Mhm.
those are just like leftover weird spaces. Yeah, that's the front of my shin. And that's where like I've developed a pretty good relationship with Timmy B and Lindsay Baker over the years. And it was the type of thing where I could go to them and be like, hey, I've got these really weird spaces. What can we do?
Gap filler.
I don't mind playing around with gap fillers.
See, that's cool because I feel like a lot of artists I've gone to, well, I don't want to say, I don't know that they would have.
But like I daydream in landscapes, so I can like look at anything and it can turn into a window. And it could be an outer space, it could be a portal, it could be another dimension, it could be a sunset, it could be, I don't know. Sometimes I just like look at a little gap and it just, I don't know, just turns into another space. I don't know.
You do that all the time to me. So Ben, what we should do is start
It's
right
like
here and
waterfall.
like we could tie this in and even just like so when are we gonna start tattooing your armpits?
It's the weed.
It's the weed.
Mhm.
Yeah. But
armpits.
we are approaching where we normally wrap
we are.
up. Kyle, do you want to give us a quick tour of the rest of these tattoos real quick? Because we just saw legs. And then next time we sit down, we'll go through piece by piece if you want. Or did you just bail on the whole idea? Nope. Oh, good.
I'm like, who bailed on what?
I think what happened? Oh, you can tell it's summer outside. You can hear all the race bikes.
Modi
go by.
bikes.
Oh wow.
Wow, that's
Quickly, if you want to
beautiful.
rattle off artists while we go through these, you're more than welcome.
Sure, yeah, that's Robert Foe. He's doing the outer sleeve. He's actually going to finish this up next month. There's like the part by my thumb, and like inner wrist is going to get done, and then my forearm. He kind of mapped out a little, but he's going to go back and do all the shading and everything.
Super cool. Super cool play on light.
Oh,
That's-
there's the one I was looking at with the little silhouette.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh wow. Little island out there.
Yeah, Tyler Malik did that, like right above that Dimitri Vision rib piece.
Pack it in, pack it in.
Mhm.
That's Carl Grace. That was like a representation of the id and superego. Gotta have an homage to me as a psychiatrist. He did.
Love it.
That's Carl. I just gave him the idea, and that's what he came up with.
Gorgeous.
Really stinking red.
Tyler, yeah, this is one of my oldest well, yeah, one of my oldest. It's like 9 or 10 years old, I think, at this point.
Wow.
And it still looks awesome. Flying eye in space.
Good stuff. Incredible collection, man. It's
Oh.
every time I look at collections like this, I'm like, man, if I'd have just waited.
Look at that belly.
That's
Look at those eyes
nuts.
on that kitty cat.
That's nuts.
Yeah, that's Savak, Dennis Savak at Love Machine in New York. And so this is the last space of my torso. And basically I just said oh yeah, that's a really good one that shows everything.
Wow.
Like you're talking about freedom before, like I showed him all of my other complementary pieces and I just said, just do some space related thing that you think would look cool and connect. And so there we wound up with 2 aliens and an alien sphinx cat with 4 eyes.
Love it. That's amazing.
Yeah. it's
Good
cool.
use of space.
So red.
There.
I'm like daydreaming about that cat right now. You know how like he's got all the
Nice. That's
like-
good coverage, man. It's insane.
Oh, there's me in all my glory.
In your competition uniform.
Yes, that's my competition uniform. That's exactly it. You got it. You gotta show off all the work. Yeah.
Man, what an accomplishment.
Yep.
Beautiful collection.
And you said heavily started getting tattooed, what, 10 years ago?
Yeah, my back and my left sleeve were 10 years ago. And then really I would say it's the last like 4 years that I did like my legs and everything else.
Insane, brother. That's nuts. That is nuts.
All right. Well, we have officially crossed the 9 o'clock hour. Do you want to throw out like handles for people to reach you?
Sure, yeah, I'm at the inked shrink, so it's the_inked_shrink, and that's YouTube, what's it called? Instagram and TikTok.
All the grams.
All the things.
All the grams. Well, I feel like honestly, I feel like we could probably keep talking for like many more hours.
Yeah.
If you have the time to join us again, I would definitely love to continue this conversation another time.
Yeah, I feel like we just started, to be honest with you.
Hey man, both of you, like that would be awesome. I love it. So
Awesome.
let me
You
know.
let us know when you are free. We are always looking for people to talk to.
Sweet. Let's do it. Let's do it soon.
All right.
We
Well,
appreciate you,
Have
man.
a great
Thanks.
evening. Thank you everybody for joining us. We will definitely be checking in with Matt very frequently. I think this
Yeah.
has been an awesome conversation. I'd love to jump back down all these rabbit holes some more. So Kyle, you got anything you need to share today before we sign off?
No,
I put him on the spot.
Uh,
All right, guys. Well, we'll see y'all next week. What?
Hell City's a month away.
Oh, Hell City's a month away. We didn't
That's
even
it.
talk about
That's
Hell
it.
City.
That's all I'm saying.
We didn't
Okay,
even
go.
talk about Hell City. Hell City's a month away.
Month away.
All right.
Tattoo Collection 101.
We'll be there. Come see us.
Have a good night, man.
All
It's
right,
really great
guys.
to meet you.
Have a
Thank
great
you.
evening. See you next week.